Hello and welcome to Debate This, the show where no one is right but someone is definitely wrong. In this show, we take time out of our busy adult lives to talk about comic books, video games, and how the WB in the early 2000s was really just a series of anime, of shoujo and shonen anime. And I don't think you can prove me wrong. Live action shoujo anime.
Yeah.
So yep. I do think I can prove you wrong because I don't think live action things can be anime, because I think the word anime and animated mean the same, like they come from the same root.
We're gonna agree to disagree there, Matt.
I get it. It's a real hot dog a sandwich kind of argument here, which we're not gonna have today.
But I believe you that the tropes are there. Like I'll buy that. Absolutely.
The tropes are there. You guys just ever wish you could, get out of the old 9-to-5 grind and big city hubbub and lead a simpler life? A small town, maybe, run almost exclusively by independent businesses that subsist entirely in their own microeconomy, and is also weirdly affluent despite most of its lovable goofball citizens being in the working class?
Entirely walkable.
Also entirely walkable. Not a single car on the road.
Most walkable city in the world. It's gorgeous. It's the best.
Allow me to welcome you, my friends Matt and Todd, but also you, the listeners, to Stars Hollow, the fictional, idyllic New England town that serves as the primary setting for beloved early 2000s dramedy Gilmore Girls.
Dramedy.
Can we just take a second, just like a quick second, to acknowledge that we are a comic book and video game podcast?
Yeah,
right.
Andrew just got done saying that this is an anime, so I don't know what
I just needed to say it out loud. That's all. I mean, we did a Les Mis episode. Like, I don't have a leg to stand
nothing,
on here.
Nothing means anything. There are no rules, and the points don't matter.
To tie this to comic books and video games, the greater Stars Hollow set is used in the Halloween episode of WandaVision.
Boom.
The big town shots are the same set.
Sure.
This show also aired right after Smallville, which you may remember as the Superman serial, teen serial.
Yeah.
So
we got there.
Speaking of, we got there. So play in this space, if you will. Imagine a time back in mid-2000, the WB was at the height of its reign as the king of teen programming, among other major networks not part of an already basic cable package. By the turn of the millennium, the network was killing it with tweens and teens, with the likes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer and its spinoff Angel, supernatural serial Charmed, and iconic teen drama Dawson's Creek and its 20-somethings version Felicity, which are all just incredible. It's just excellent periods in TV programming.
I did not watch these shows like when they were on.
Yeah, I've watched them all after the fact.
Right.
I did not realize that these were all CW originals and not just syndicated shows that came on after Pokemon.
Yeah. See, also Seventh Heaven was in this block too.
So it sure was.
Oh boy!
So we can just get the Matt's a baby jokes out of the way now. I have not seen a single one of these shows, not a single episode of any one of them. And I know you guys all just said that like you didn't watch them while you were on, but these are the type of shows that like people were watching them after they were on. The first time I heard about them.
Yeah, that's fair.
These are all really cozy shows. With maybe Dawson's Creek not being like cozy.
Yeah, it's definitely on the razor's edge.
Yeah. But like I was hearing about like Buffy and Dawson's Creek and that from like my friends who had older siblings in college who they were like, oh, we're all watching Gilmore Girls in the dorm or whatever, and talk to, like their little sibling about it. But nobody that I knew was at any point in like my whole timeline ever that nobody gave a shit about these shows, man.
Buffy was like how you earned your nerd cred before we all learned Joss Whedon was a pest too. So like, that's part of it. Angel spun off of Buffy, so
Angel is edgy as hell. This is very much in the elder millennial niche. So it was a little bit too old for I think myself and probably Todd too when this came out, which is why I say like, I watched most of this, save for Angel because it was edgy and cool. I watched most of this after.
Angel is the closest, and a show we'll talk about later, I'm sure. Supernatural is like the tail.
Yeah,
the tail.
Supernatural is the successor. Anyway, in October of 2000, Gilmore Girls would be added as the next slot in this powerhouse roster. So before we move on, I want to say that today's flavor text is brought to you by no one, actually.
No one asked for this? Wait.
No one asked for this.
It's brought to you by Andrew.
The call is coming from inside the house. So for the first time in probably 2 years, we here at Debate This are all caught up on our flavor text commissions. So as a fun little break, we decided to do something that's a little off-brand. I don't know, what the hell. Now, with that being said, everybody at home, our commission lines are officially open. And if you want to patron your own episode of Flavor Text, please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/debatethiscast. A one-time payment of $60 will get you the limited superpower to dictate whatever property we break down next. That being said, life is a journey, guys, and no one should do it alone. Where Kyle, the town troubadour Harper, leads, I, Andrew Henderson, will follow. And together, we're going to break down this series one Friday night dinner at a time. Joining us today are Matt, Miss Celine Cole, and Todd, Old Man Twickham Thomas, along for the ride.
Todd's name sounds racist.
It does sound a little racist.
Old Man Twickham probably is racist.
Guys, fear not. This show is very white.
Oh.
You may have already
I
assumed.
couldn't tell from the intro video. It's Caucasian as hell.
Is there a single person of color?
Ooh, to IMDb
Michelle.
we go.
It's Michelle.
Michelle and
Yeah. And Lane.
Lane and
That's
Gypsy.
about it.
Okay, were those characters in from season 1?
So, yes, actually.
Yes.
So,
Oh,
I
okay.
lied a little bit when I said this episode is brought to you by no one. Actually, this episode is brought to you by mine and Kyle's partners, who have collectively devoted so much of their lives to this show that over the years, I think Kyle and I might be in the double digits of like how many laps we've gone on this show.
I'm right on the edge if I'm not, if I
Yeah.
haven't crossed the line. This was a annual watch for a while. Like every
Yeah.
time the leaves start changing, we
Yep.
knew it was time to watch Gilmore Girls again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think last year is the first time since we've been together that we didn't watch it in the fall.
So this is your The Office.
This is collectively our family's The Office.
If I didn't also watch The
Do
Office,
The Office.
Yeah.
it would be my The Office.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jess and I don't watch a lot of things together. There's a very small Venn diagram on shows that we agree on. This was the show that was always on, and I would pretend to not watch, but absolutely watch. Be like,
But
"You guys sucks," like that
yeah,
kind of thing.
by 3
how
episodes
men
in,
do?
you're yelling at Dean.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, we're yelling a lot of deep. Anyway, let's start with how we always do. Let's go around the horn. I'm gonna guess that Kyle and I have talked. I'm gonna guess Matt and Todd, you have zero familiarity with this property.
No, I tipped my hand earlier. I won't bother repeating
Mhm.
myself. I know nothing.
Got it.
So that intro took us like 7 minutes or something like that. Up until 7 minutes ago, I thought we were recording Golden Girls.
Got it.
Yeah, and I realized we're not recording Golden Girls.
Cool.
I know a bit about Golden Girls. You want to talk about that?
I know what we're
Yeah.
getting commissioned next.
Yeah. So no, I know nothing about this other than my partner too has watched this, and I have caught glimpses of it while looking at my phone or playing Switch. Some of these, a surprising number of actors in here are like named
Yep.
actors.
Yeah.
The one girl ends up in The Handmaid's Tale.
That's right.
Yep.
So let me get into it because I've actually got a big roster of people who show up. So let's start at the top. Gilmore Girls began as the brainchild of Amy Sherman Palladino, a writer who had previously worked on a number of sitcoms, including several seasons of Roseanne in the 90s. And her pitch to the WB was basically this: a show about a mother and daughter, but they're best friends. They're best friends first and mother and daughter second. That's it. And with that core concept mix in with a little bit of early 2000 teen angst and ASP's love of pop culture and specifically Twin Peaks, we get the show we know today as Gilmore Girls.
Amy Sherman Palladino also did Marvelous Miss Maisie.
Mrs. Maisel, yeah,
Mrs. Maisel.
which is on Amazon.
If you're looking for like a touchstone, a cultural
Mhm.
touchstone.
Yeah, it's a really good show for what it's worth.
I've
Yeah.
not watched it.
So Amy Sherman Palladino would go on to serve as the series' head writer, producer, and showrunner, along with her husband Dan Palladino.
For 6 of the 7 seasons.
Exactly. So Gilmore Girls would run for 7 seasons through May of 2007, airing first on Tuesdays and then quickly switched to Thursdays, starting with season 2, which, as I said, aired right after Smallville. which is why I know exclusively the first 5 minutes of this show every episode. The 7th season, as Kyle mentioned, was actually the first year. If you guys remember, the WB and the UPN actually merged and turned into the CW. Mm-hmm. And because of that, there was a bunch of negotiations that happened. The final season of Gilmore Girls actually got the Community Season 4 treatment because Amy and Dan couldn't come to an agreement in their contract negotiations, and they left the show. So a different writer, a different showrunner led season 7, and it very much has Gas Leak Year vibes. If you know what, if you're
sure does.
I think that was the first media is an empire and it controls what I get to see thing that I really remember. The first writer strike or culling of shows, big cancellation. Yeah, that was the CW.
This is very much in that era because the writer strike happened in 2008, so pretty close to this. And there were a lot of casualties that are indirectly related to the show, weirdly enough. So for years after, I mean, this was a cult classic. A lot of people grew up, my wife included, Kyle's partner included, grew up watching this, and for a long time, the final season was considered by fans to be kind of a pale imitation of the show. And ASP had gone on the record to say that she had a very different ending in mind for the last season. So 10 years later, Netflix bought the rights to the show from Warner Brothers and ordered a 4-episode miniseries called Gilmore Girls: A Day in the Life. And that released on Netflix in November of 2016, which was headed up by Amy and Dan. This so-called a revival allowed them to write the ending that they originally intended for the show, and you can still see that today.
These episodes are more like episodes of Sherlock, where they're an hour and a half long. Each episode of this is its own movie,
like a mini movie,
movie.
It's the HBO miniseries treatment. Think Band of Brothers or something.
Yeah,
gotcha. I'm just really curious. You have yet to reference a single show that I've seen a single episode of in this whole episode, and it's crazy to me.
Incredible.
I'm having my mind blown right now.
We'll get you.
I'm sure you will eventually.
Give me 5 minutes. I think I'm going to get you.
You got it.
So the show stars Lorelai Gilmore and her teenage daughter, Rory Gilmore, as they navigate through love and life in their sleepy, idyllic Connecticut town, Stars Hollow.
And laughter.
Rory is short for Lorelai. They are both named Lorelai Gilmore. Mm-hmm. One goes by Rory.
It's like a family name.
Is that a thing that happens?
Yeah, this show takes place in very waspy Connecticut, and the connection is Lorelai is the only child of Richard and Emily Gilmore, who are two of the wealthiest wasps in waspy Hartford, Connecticut. So Hartford is near Yale, it's very old money New England. That is very much a thing. So Lorelai is a family name, we learn later. But Lorelai grew up a rebel and hated all of the rich, fancy bullshit that comes from in this world. So after she got teen pregnant at 16, she ran away from home and struck it out on her own. She raised Rory in Stars Hollow as a single mother, living only on her wages from working up as just a maid, day-to-day wage maid in the town's only bed and breakfast, the Independence Inn. You're going to see a lot of the town's only this, and it's always owned by an independent business owner. Everything's a mom and pop shop.
Yep.
There's one chain that is referenced and never seen in the entirety of this show.
Yes.
Is this just a Lifetime movie? Is this 7 seasons of a Lifetime movie?
Yeah, pretty much.
It sure is.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the same vibe for sure. So when we first meet Lorelai, she is the ripe old age of 32.
And how old's her daughter?
16. Yeah.
All right.
And she is now the acting manager of the Independence Inn. Rory is about to enter her sophomore year of high school. And like I said, the core dynamic of the show is the relationship between Lorelai and Rory. I've linked a YouTube video here, which is the first scene of the pilot episode, which is a very good example of, and you don't have to watch it, but it's a very good example of the dialogue. So one of the main kind of features of the show is the way that people talk. People talk very fast. There's a lot of pop culture references and, quick jokes, very witty written jokes. It kind of feels like a Community, it's got that sense where it's reference. It is very much kind of on the cusp of that type of writing. And that's very much Amy Sherman Palladino's whole deal. This is what the show is known for.
Every time I rewatch it, I trace the lines out to 30 Rock, spins off of this style very much, where they're talking
That's a good
fast.
line.
And we'll talk about it later, I'm sure. Family Guy spins off of this with the pop culture references as well.
Yeah.
And that's pretty like revolutionary for 2000, you know?
Yeah,
100%. I mean, this is also single camera dramedy,
Yep.
you know, like this
Yeah.
was very much ahead of its time. On the curve, at least. So the show follows Rory through the last 3 years of high school and then all 4 years of college. Through that time, Rory and Lorelai each tear through their own share of exciting adventures, tender moments, and a veritable meat mountain of conventionally attractive white men.
I dislike that.
There's a lot of waifus in this show.
Yeah.
It's the Grey's Anatomy approach.
Yeah, that's right. There's
Kind
a lot.
of.
There is a big old sausage fest of
early 2000s hunks.
yeah, a lot of bowl cut dudes. Now in its run,
That's my favorite kind of oatmeal.
Todd mentioned this earlier, but in its run, Gilmore Girls saw a ton of well-known actors come and go. Call it the Law and Order effect. Many of whom were, quote, before they hit it big. So Todd mentioned earlier when he was watching the intro, the most well-known example is Melissa McCarthy, who plays Lorelai's best friend and business partner Suki throughout the whole series.
Suki St. James.
Suki St. James. Alexis Bledel, who plays Rory, actually had barely worked in the industry at all before she landed this starring role, and then would go on to do the Sisters of Traveling Pants movies. She was featured in Mad Men, and then most recently, The Handmaid's Tale. Lauren Graham, who plays Lorelai, also did some stuff. She appeared in an episode of Seinfeld, but really after Gilmore Girls hit some starring roles, most importantly NBC's Parenthood, which is also very much a spiritual successor to this show.
More or less plays Lorelai Gilmore.
Exactly, same character.
Yeah.
Yep. And then there's some hunks. So Rory's very first boyfriend, Dean, is played by Jared Padalecki, who most people will know as the main character in Supernatural. That ran for like 14 fucking years. Her second boyfriend was Milo Ventimiglia, who a couple of years later was the main character of the biggest casualty of the writer's strike, which is Heroes, that aired on NBC.
There it is.
I got Matt.
Who did he play in Heroes?
Peter Petrelli.
Yeah.
Peter Petrelli. And he's on he was in Last of Us.
He's on This Is Us. This is The Last of Us.
This is The Last of Us.
A lower middle income Pennsylvania family deals with a zombie apocalypse.
Send that one to the save data team. They'll take that.
Oh God, that one really got me. Wait, hold on. I gotta say something dumb real quick.
Okay.
The only thing I just looked through Alexis Bledel's whole IMDb page, and the only thing that I've ever seen with her in it was her uncredited role as Ace in 2006 movie Zoom starring Tim Allen. And I don't know why it's always
God damn
Tim
it.
Allen movies.
Why
Always comes
every
back to
time?
Tim
It's
Allen.
always Tim Allen's Zoom.
Why do you do this?
I don't know.
Rory also went to school with a number of named actors, including Ariel Kebbel, who would do a bunch of like mid-2000s teen comedies and an American Pie spinoff. She attended college with Jessica Jones, Kristen Ritter, and Community's Danny Pudi, which is wild.
Danny Pudi shows up for a minimal number of episodes.
5 minutes. Yeah.
He's there.
The show's earlier seasons feature teen heartthrobs Chad Michael Murray pre One Tree Hill and Adam Brody pre The OC. Which is
those two are specifically in the show for one season because they immediately got signed to those shows.
But we're not just a veritable cast of bowl-cutted teen beat flavors of the month. We also see Gilmore Girls also featured Alex Borstein from Mad TV and Family Guy, who later is a starring role in Mrs. Maisel. Sally Struthers, who originally appeared in All in the Family, shows up as a side character, and Marion Ross from Happy Days, who played the mom in Happy Days, shows up and plays two characters. Her mother. She plays her own daughter.
What?
And then
It's
of course it's a bit. And then of course we see a recurring role for singer-songwriter Carole King, who wrote and performed the series theme song. The series has one theme song across the whole leg, and that's Carole King's
Where You Lead.
Where You Lead.
It was not written for the show.
It was not written for the show.
Yeah.
Sure.
One major feature of the show that kind of sets it apart, in addition to like the dialogue, is just the lovable goofiness of Stars Hollow and its citizens. It's very much the like, you remember like the South Park, like the rabble, like they
have a weekly town meeting.
It's Parks and Rec Town Hall energy.
It's Parks and Rec Town Hall. And those are always led by our resident Scooby-Doo villain, town mayor Taylor Dozy.
Dozy.
There's other fun residents, like I said, Sally Struthers is there. There's Miss Babette, who is like a washed up drama teacher.
Yeah.
There's a wandering troubadour who never gets named, who just plays guitar in the park. And then most importantly, there's the town weirdo Kirk, who is played by Guardians of the Galaxy's Sean Gunn.
Yes, it is. That's where I know Sean Gunn
That's Kraglin.
from.
That's Kraglin.
That's Kraglin.
And so Kirk's whole bit, we're not gonna talk a lot about Kirk because he's not plot centric. He's just the town weirdo. So Kirk's whole bit is that every episode he has like a different job. So like anytime they need to show somebody at a store or like a clerk or somebody who's like delivering something, it's always Kirk. And Kirk throughout the series has like 70 plus different individual jobs.
Awesome.
They do a bit towards the end where he ends up being like one of the richest people in Stars Hollow.
Yeah.
Because like the town,
he's just been saving all his money.
The town takes care of him, and then he saves all his money from these weird jobs. Kirk is the best. Kirk is like you should watch the show for Kirk and then stay for all of the other stuff.
There's a couple bonus links that I've put in here. There's a compilation of all of Kirk's jobs and then a compilation of all the town hall meetings. Again, those are longer videos, so we'll shoot up the links to all this stuff in the show notes. If you're interested in this show, you can check it out later.
It does look like the only reason they cast Sean Gunn in this was because Ben Schwartz was too young to be this role. Because this just looks like Ben Schwartz 7 years earlier.
Sean Gunn was definitely cast because he is kind of goofy looking and willing to embarrass himself. I want to point out a key factor of Stars Hollow specifically. It is a town where like magical realism happens on the regular. That is a thing Amy Sherman Palladino has talked about, like is part of the whole reason like Lorelai settles there, is like it is a semi-magical town that like is never spelled out in the text of the show, but is very much part of it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a perfect summary, and that's really what this show is. This show is a laying under a flannel blanket, drinking a hot cup of coffee while the rain taps at your window. Like this show is cozy core, the definition of.
Got it.
Yeah. So let's get into it. So we're gonna do beat by beat here, as always. There is an Imager link. We will also link that in the show notes. I will call out what images we're looking at. I'm going to go fast because these are just like, this happens, then this happens, then this happens. So, we're going to also skip over a lot. There's a lot of just like fun flavor.
There's a lot of B and C plots that
of B and C plots
definitely add to the character and appeal of the show, but like we'd be here forever if we covered all the B and C plots.
Yeah,
so.
You guys don't need to know every time a town festival is happening.
Yeah.
Sure. Love it.
So Rory is an incredibly precocious teen, top of her class, very studious, always knows in a book, yada, yada. She's Belle. Rory is a Disney princess. She's a Disney princess to the point of like she's got big doe eyes and everyone loves her. Rory has just gotten into the very prestigious Chilton Academy, which is located about 45 minutes away in Hartford, Connecticut. This is, her whole goal in life is to go to Harvard. She loves Harvard, and this is the path that will get her into Harvard. But there's a catch. Chilton Academy is a very expensive prep school, and by extension has a very, very large tuition fee. Now, like I said, Rory is a Disney princess. She's got big anime doe eyes. Her whole personality is that she's always in a book. The thing about Rory is like she's not remarkable as a person. She's just like cute and likable enough that you root for her.
The whole town of Stars Hollow comes to a screeching halt whenever Rory needs it to, though, as well. Like everyone in town, she is the golden child of every one of these Stars Hollow weirdos we just talked about.
Yeah, adults fawn over her.
Mm-hmm.
Dudes trip over backwards to be with her.
Yeah,
when other teen girls envy her. Like she is the main character syndrome in every regard.
Yeah.
It's her world. We're just living in it.
It's
Exactly.
her world, and we're just living in it. And speaking of, it's her world, we're just living in it. We've also got Lorelai, who has the equal, who is just Rory plus 16 years. So Lorelai has that exact same main character vibe, but with her kind of added distinguishedness is that she is genuinely funny and a very witty person. She's got a good sense of humor, but she's also very kind of like sarcastic. She's a little bit of a rebel.
She has a very like natural, easy
Mhm.
charm about her. Like
Yeah, she's-
everyone who
exactly.
interacts with her can't help but be won over by Lorelai.
Yeah, and everybody loves Lorelai. This is
Yeah.
her town. She is queen shit of our Stars
Yep.
Hollow. And similar to Rory, dudes bend over backwards to be with her. So image one is our two main characters, Lorelai and Rory. And they are the main characters, ergo we root for them.
She does have big anime doe eyes.
She does.
Yeah.
I kind of didn't think you were being serious,
No.
but wow.
There's a line that Lorelai literally says like, hey, big, like she calls her like a big doe eyes. Like that's
Yeah.
Boy.
that's her whole bit.
You know, fun pet names for your daughter.
Mhm. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Normal things you call your normal children.
But again, like, may I remind you that their relationship is they are best friends.
Sure. Yeah.
I'll throw out here that it's one of Lorelai's like character traits that she is permanently romantically unavailable because of Rory, quote unquote.
Right.
It's also her like fierce independence that like it's been her and Rory since 16. So every time
Mhm.
one of these guys like tries to mac on her, she turns into the Ice Queen and like
Yeah.
shuts
Sure.
him down. It's
Yes,
it's a thing.
exactly, and that's Lorelai's character. So this kind of comes first and foremost in the pilot because now they're faced with this high tuition fee. Lorelai does have some family connections, but until this point, as Kyle said, it's been the two of them for 16 years, and Lorelai has kept her parents very, very much on a long leash.
Christmas and Easter, I think, is
Christmas and Easter,
Yeah.
the high holy days. She is not interested in asking for help. She is fiercely independent to a fault, and this is a character trait that you will see time and time again throughout this show. Unfortunately, that stalemate is about to be broken because it's either Rory or Lorelai's pride, and unfortunately, like Rory wants to go to Harvard, Rory gets what she wants. So Lorelai is forced to ask her parents to help pay for Rory's tuition, and then we meet Emily and Richard Gilmore in Image 2. And they're rich people. I mean, they're rich white people.
they're waspy wasps.
Wearing
Yeah.
a bow tie to dinner.
Exactly.
Emily is in the DAR, like
The Daughters
it's-
of the American Revolution.
it's the whole thing.
Emily's outfit is like the Hollywood outfit to show a rich, like white.
Yep.
She
Wife.
dresses like Laura Bush the whole series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like this is. It's like growing a beard to show that time has passed. You know,
Mhm.
like you put a blue blazer and pearls with shoulder pads on, and
Yeah.
she's rich.
Yep.
Slowly over 10 rewatches, Emily goes from like villain to probably
Hero.
my favorite character of the show.
Same.
Like she is
Yeah.
Emily's such a well-written good
Yeah,
character.
she's the real hero of this series for
Yeah.
sure.
Huh.
So Emily and Richard quickly identify this as an opportunity for them to kind of mend this gap, mend these ties between them and Lorelai, specifically for them to get closer to Rory. And as Kyle mentioned, this is kind of played on the surface as like, we're going to take Rory back and bring her into our scary wasp world. But really, it's like, no, they just want to be with their granddaughter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just want to be with their family. Lorelai is very much like, no, they've got an ulterior motive. So she is like at every point of the way, like begrudgingly like against this. But ultimately they decide, and so kind of the concept here is in return for them paying the tuition, Lorelai and Rory will go to Emily and Richard's for every Friday night for dinner, and this is Friday night dinner. So this is a major kind of plot point and recurring setting is every Friday night
It's
they
Friday
go to
night
dinner.
dinner. Yeah.
Mhm. That's 40% of the show.
Yep. Like, 10% of the episodes, the conflict is, something is happening Friday. I can't go to Friday night dinner. Or I'm not going to Friday night dinner because I'm fighting with so-and-so. Or unexpected guest is at Friday night dinner.
We're going to
It's-
Friday night dinner, and I don't want to admit that I'm with this new boy.
Yep.
Speaking of boys, Rory has a chance encounter with a mysterious boy who just moves to Stars Hollow. That mysterious boy is Dean, all-American heartthrob and very nice man. They have a couple of awkward teen meet cutes around the town, and Rory quickly becomes smitten. In image 3, we see Dean in his bowl cut glory.
Yeah, that is Jonathan Taylor Thomas as fuck.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure
Yep.
is.
Dean is your quintessential, like, doesn't have plans after high school guy. Like,
He's pure Americana.
Yeah.
Now, during this pilot episode, Rory and Lorelai constantly meet up in Luke's Diner, which is another one of the major settings. And this is the town's one cafe, actually one of two cafes, run by the curmudgeonly 30-something Luke Danes. So where Dean is Rory's kind of, new boy, Luke is Lorelai's guy. Luke is always seen wearing a ball cap, and he has big get off my lawn energy. He's 30 going on 80. But of course, he has a soft spot for Lorelai.
He has a new flannel for every day.
He has a new flannel. So in image 4, this is our boy Luke. Luke and Lorelai will be serving as your court-ordered will they, won't they, for the next
7 seasons.
7
Yeah.
seasons. And yeah, so this is the show, as Kyle said. So Rory deals with the everyday ups and downs of high school, but dialed to 11 in this super affluent prep school environment, while Lorelai navigates life as a single mom, hotel manager, and fiercely independent gal about town. Rory starts school at Chilton, and she's quickly overwhelmed with difference in culture with this uppity prep school versus her small, kind of normie town. She's quickly ousted as the outsider in this group of filthy rich white kids, and that target is coming from Chilton's queen bee, Paris Geller, in image 5.
Look at her.
This is a wild image, man.
I'm really happy I found that promotional image. So that's Paris and the cool girls.
Paris is another A or S tier character of the show.
For sure.
Paris is amazing.
Yeah, we'll come back to Paris, but for right now, she's just playing the kind of the mean girl kind of archetype.
Yeah.
Rory also gets targeted by the class's resident cool boy, Tristan, played by, of course, One Tree Hill's Chad Michael Murray in image 6.
Is there a douchier name than Tristan?
There is not, Matt.
If you're listening to this and your name's Tristan, not a douchey name. But outside of that,
no, fuck you.
No. Name one cool Tristan.
I can't. I don't know any. I'm sorry.
I can't.
Hey, if your name's Tristan and you're cool, you give us a 5-star review and we'll know you exist, buddy.
Yeah.
And Chad Michael Murray embodies the name Tristan in this character.
He sure does.
Yeah, he's trust fund baby. So this is our first kind of weird love triangle is like, we've got Dean, who's like the middle class Americana, and then we've got Tristan, who's the pampered rich boy. So we see Rory trying to balance her new workload, finding a way to fit in with all the spoiled kids at Chilton. Back in Stars Hollow, though, she has her best friend to lean on, which is the rebellious Lane Kim. So Lane exists throughout this whole show. And when you talk about characters that just kind of like fall flat, I really like Lane as a character, but like, man, she has best friend.
They don't know what to do with her.
Yeah, they just don't know what to do with her.
You're telling me the first named character that isn't blatantly Caucasian didn't get good character development?
Yeah, it's weird, right?
It's weird.
Right.
There's nothing bad in her story. It just like
it doesn't go anywhere.
Puddles around for 7 seasons.
Yeah. So Lane's whole thing is that Lane's mom is super religious and conservative. She doesn't allow Lane to listen to music or watch TV. Again, this is all of the conservative religious tropes. Lane's mom
it's the Asian mom tropes too. Which
it's the Asian
better.
mom tropes. There is a funny bit because like Lane's mom is that very specific sect of Korean Christian, which like is a thing, right? Like,
yes.
Yeah. So her mom owns an antique store, and like Lane isn't allowed to do anything fun. That's the whole bit. Lane's mom, of course, wants Lane to find a nice Korean boy, which Lane certainly does not want to do. And this is Lane in image 7. So after a steamy kiss in the back of the town's grocery store, the one grocery store, Dozie's Market, Rory and Dean start officially dating, which is, of course, to Lorelai's dismay. Things are pretty light and breezy with them until Dean, the starry-eyed kid as he is, just tells Rory he loves her like way too early because he's 16 and he's a dumb kid.
Yeah.
And Rory, of course, doesn't know what to do because she's also a 16 and a dumb kid. Dean dumps her because he thinks she isn't into him. And because, everything about Dean is that, like, Rory fucks with men's brains. I don't know. The thing about Rory is, like, Rory makes every man insane.
Yes.
Like, just insane.
Is this the car, Andrew?
Not yet. We're not the car yet. This is just like
the Norma Dean episode. Have we gotten
Yes,
there yet?
I think we're about there. I don't want to talk about that episode.
I don't know what that inside joke was.
Right.
Is this where we start spinning off the fan theories that like Rory is some sort of like succubus or evil magic user?
I don't think you're wrong. I will go on record to say, like, I've introduced Rory as a Disney princess. She doesn't have any real character until like middle of the show. I don't think Rory is a good person. And I don't think the show thinks Rory is a good person either.
Yeah.
And that's actually confirmed when we come back and we visit Rory as a 30-something.
Yeah.
She's done some pretty shitty things.
Yeah. The Norma Dean episode, just for everyone, is a weird episode where Dean makes it known that they watch an old 50s sitcom, and Dean comments like, "Oh, how nice it must have been to have your wife like waiting on you, dolled up and doting when you get home from work." Rory,
those looks on your faces are accurate.
So Rory plans a date where she does all that.
No!
Yeah. Rents out a kitchen.
Oh man.
Like puts on a 50s dress and does the whole thing.
Yeah.
And Dean is like, "This is great." And the audience is like, "This feels like fetish content."
Yeah, it's creepy.
Yeah.
And Rory does it sarcastically. Like, she doesn't do it honestly.
Yeah.
She's not trying to please a boy.
Yeah.
She does it sarcastically, but like Dean doesn't get it because Dean's not very smart.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's all's a thing. So again, there's a lot of B and C plots that are happening. Meanwhile, while all this is going on, all this boy trouble is going on, Emily and Richard begin to develop a relationship with Rory outside of Lorelai, and the three of them find that Rory actually has a lot more in common with them than they originally thought. Rory and Richard bond over old books. You know, Rory kind of likes all this high society stuff. Like, she's interested. She
likes
into
being a rich kid in a way.
She likes being a rich kid
in a way that Lorelai really hated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
While this is going on, a series of incidents leads to Lorelai coming late to a parent-teacher meeting and hitting it off with Rory's English teacher, Max Medina. Now, after Max pursues Lorelai a bit, the two start dating, which obviously does not help Rory's adjustment to Chilton. They date for a bit, but Lorelai calls it off because, as Kyle mentioned, Rory always comes first. So Max Medina is in image 8.
They get caught by students kissing in the school, which causes problems for Rory, as you can imagine.
Who is that guy? That actor looks familiar.
I'm
not sure. He's not anyone.
He's done these sized parts.
Oh, like he's a character actor?
He's played this guy in a lot of things.
He's not in my list of went on to do other things.
Yeah, that's fine.
The big twist, halfway through season 1, Rory's motorcycle driving dad, Christopher, comes into town.
I was going to ask about when the dad shows up.
Yeah, leather jacket and all. So we learn about Christopher that he and Lorelai pretty much grew up together. They were, their families were friends. They were both in this like rich high society and both hated it. So they bonded over that. They bonded over like listening to music in their
listening
room.
To Metallica.
Listening to Metallica. Yeah, exactly. And they, everybody knew that like they were going to get married. They were going to, be destined to be together, right? But when Lorelai got teen pregnant and left for Stars Hollow, Christopher just went his own way. And that's not, he didn't like, it's their relationship is weird because he didn't necessarily like ditch out. Like, she told him like, go live your life.
He offered.
Yeah.
He was like, I'll get a job at my dad's company, at my rich dad's company, and we'll do the rich white thing. And she was like, no, we'll both hate each other if we do that. Go your own way. That's not to say though that Christopher doesn't suck, because Christopher sucks.
He does, and he sucks in that very like tropey estranged dad way, because he rolls into town, he makes a bunch of promises. He's like, Rory, I'll buy you this, I'll buy you that, but he has no money. And like he says like, I'll show up, I'll take you to the ball game, and he never shows. It's like that thing.
Yeah.
So Christopher is in image 9. Much like Lorelai is a lovable fuck up, Christopher is an unlovable fuck up.
He has his moments.
Where
you're like, oh, I could see it, and then he fucks up again.
The interesting thing about them is like the two of them have chemistry. Like Lorelai and Christopher have a ton of history, and they have really good chemistry. So like every time you see them on screen, you're like, oh shit, like they fit in a way that Luke and Lorelai in the entire show never do.
It reaches a point where he exclusively rolls into town to fuck shit up. And
yep,
then
pretty much.
Good.
Pretty much. So the back half of season 1, Rory goes from outcast to basically class president. She makes a name for herself sitting on the school paper, which just also happens to be headed up by Paris and the rest of the cool girls.
Oh, it surely is.
She
Yep.
she like gets her one-up moment on Paris, and that like cements her in this now golden child of the new school as well.
Exactly. There is a particular incident involving a Bangles concert because Lorelai's a cool mom and takes Rory and her friends to a Bangles concert in New York.
Bangles, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Walk like Egyptian, the Bangles.
That's right. That's right. Because
featured
Lorelai is
in the episode. Yeah.
featured in the episode because Lorelai is a child of the 80s.
Yeah.
So after there's another incident in a college boys' dorm. Basically, after some of these things, Rory and Paris actually kind of mend their relationship and they start to become friends. And Rory and Paris will eventually become a thing. And like they have this like best frenemy relationship where Paris is like a monster, but also like, but really fucking funny.
really, really funny. Really just great whenever she shows up and is a monster, but also like is a monster for Rory on Rory's benefit.
She's got big mama bear energy.
Yeah.
Got it, yeah.
So the tale of season 1 is Luke's ex-girlfriend rolls into town. Because again, people roll into town because it's
Stars Hollow. That's
right.
Yeah.
So the two of them reconnect. But Luke's ex quickly picks up on the will they won't they vibe between he and Lorelai and dips out. The season ends with Rory finally gathering the courage to tell Dean that she loves him, and also Max Medina is still there and proposes to Lorelai because they've low-key started dating again. So the last kind of cliffhanger is Max proposing to Lorelai in a very 2001 TV grand gesture.
It's the daisies, right?
It's the daisies.
Okay. Yeah.
100 daisies or whatever bullshit.
He proposes with 100 daisies and then kick off season 2.
So season 2, we pick up back with this proposal to which Lorelai initially says yes, but of course after a few weeks realizes she just really isn't in love with Max, and there's just something that doesn't fit right, you know?
He's boring.
Yeah, probably has to do with that diner guy or her motorcycle ex.
Yeah, right.
I brought up the daisies because I want to point out this is one of the like bigger magical realism moments of the show. Season 2 opens with Lorelai and Rory walking through Stars Hollow, and there's daisies everywhere. Like every surface of the town is covered in daisies after this like waiting a year for the did she say yes or no to the proposal.
I need to publish an errata because my wife just texted me and said Stars Hollow is too small for a mayor. Taylor is the town's selectman.
I was going to say city manager, but I think that goes the other way.
Yep. Anyway.
Town selectman. That's right. That's right.
Anyway, speaking of cool motorcycle boys, a new challenger approaches. Luke's nephew comes to Stars Hollow from the big city, and is he edgy. The shadow to Dean's Sonic.
Oh God.
He sure is.
Yeah. Guys, allow me to introduce you to Jess, played by Milo Ventimiglia. Jess is super smart and reads a lot, but he is also a bad boy. He's really into Jack Kerouac. He's a Jack Kerouac guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So but he's also a bad boy and marches to the beat of his own drum. He's the polar opposite of All-American Dean. So Jess annoys Rory at first, but of course there's just something about him. She can't quit. Him. So Jess is in Image 10, and I tried to find the most like brooding picture. And I think this is good because the way that he holds a book is like very weird.
Yeah,
it sure is.
To show that he doesn't
live by society's rules.
He doesn't live by your rules.
No one's ever read a book like that.
Nobody.
Nobody's ever read a book like that, and nobody's ever sat on a bench with their hand in their jeans.
Yeah.
Hand
in one hand in pocket, the other hand just clawing the book.
Yeah.
Let me say,
it's great.
I did not watch this show until like 2011 or 12. No idea who Jess was. I wanted to be Jess in 2003 when like,
Same.
He is who I wanted to be when I was 13 years old.
You're edgy but cultured.
I need to remind you guys that like nobody in this show is inherently good, right? Like, and I don't think the show tries to portray them as such. Like, Jess is a shithead. Dean also kind of sucks. But like, man, if I don't laugh every time Jess is on the scene, is on the stage, like it's just really good.
Well, I think there's some credit to be given there that like obviously the people who created the show realized that you can't show how idyllic somewhere is if there isn't a little bit of conflict. And the
Yeah.
easiest way to breed a little bit of conflict is to have all your characters be kind of shitty. And
Yeah, exactly.
I vibe with that.
Yeah.
All of the scenes of Luke and Jess, especially like being two men who can't talk to each other.
Oh my God, it's good.
Such good TV.
Yeah, it's just like that toxic masculinity, but so far over that it's like kind of heartwarming and endearing, you know?
It comes back around.
They're trying to break through the toxic masculinity, but they can't.
But they can't because it's 2002.
Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah, so Jess, of course, is a new force to Stars Hollow, and everybody aside from Luke and Rory fucking hates him. He's brooding, he's standoffish, he tells off Lorelai, which is a cardinal sin in Stars Hollow. The reason that he's here is, so the whole kind of plot device here is that Luke is taking him in from his sister, from Luke's sister, who is like, we don't really know the details, but like it's implied that she's kind of like floating around from boyfriend to boyfriend. And Jess and his mom have a falling out. Jess is like the picturesque version, the encapsulation of "you're not my real dad."
Yeah.
But wait, okay, but he's Luke's nephew,
Correct.
Yeah.
and Luke is the will they won't they diner guy.
That's correct.
Yes.
So if Luke and Lorelai end up together, these two are cousins.
Hey Matt, you're not wrong.
Okay.
And this is the weird thing about season 2 and 3, because now we start this kind of like love triangle, will they, won't they, with Rory and Jess, but also Luke and Lorelai are not together. So like Luke and Lorelai are kind of into each other. Rory and Jess are kind of into each other, but they also aren't.
Luke and Lorelai is a slow burn.
Oh, a slow burn.
Oh yeah.
So
I
they're
mean,
like
it's 7 seasons.
So they banter. They banter, and the audience is like, they're gonna get together eventually, but like we're not there. We're not there yet.
We're so far from being ready for that.
Okay, fair.
So Jess continues to be a force for chaos throughout Stars Hollow, and of course he quickly gains the ire of All-American Dean, who of course sees Jess as a threat to their relationship.
Because Rory can't stop obviously making boo eyes at Jess whenever he like walks into frame. Yeah.
Because like Rory's like, every time she's with Dean, is like, I wonder what Jess is up to right now.
Awesome.
So Jess is smarter than Dean and knows this and takes every attempt to troll Dean, which is also just very funny. And this is the absolute best love triangle of the series. Not the only one, not the last one, but the best one.
Yeah.
Okay, fair.
So we see. So back to Lorelai. She's dealing with the fallout of her broken engagement and cleaning up the mess that was made between her and Emily.
Every time Lorelai breaks up with a boyfriend, it causes strife with her and Emily, because Emily's main goal in life is to make an honest woman out of her daughter, basically.
Yeah. And the shows does every once in a while we'll get these like Lorelai and Emily bottle episodes, which are some of the best in writing, honestly, because Lorelai and Emily does this like they always put them in fun capers, like Lorelai and Emily at a bachelorette party, Lorelai and Emily at a fancy spa, Lorelai and Emily at a seedy bar picking up men. Like it's just like, there's all these fun hijinks that they get into. Christopher rolls back into town as he has wanted to do, but this time he's got a serious girlfriend, and her name is Sherry. That he met at work. She's in marketing. That's what he says.
Oh wow, the 2000s.
As Kyle mentioned, Emily blames Lorelai for not, quote, holding on to Christopher, which is a legitimately fucked up thing and very must be old person thing to say. A new music shop opens up in Stars Hollow, which is owned by Carole King. That's where Carole King shows up.
Now, is this like Carole King named Carole King?
She's got a character, and her name is Sophie.
Her name's Carole King, but the K and the C are reversed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like a Donkey Kong Country character.
She has a character name, but it's very much like look, Carole King's in our episode again.
Right. Exactly.
Like Cheryl.
Yeah, exactly.
Cheryl King.
And Lane immediately falls in love with the drum set that's on sale and decides that she's going to be a drummer. And that's Lane's entire character arc. There you go. So Luke asks Rory to tutor Jess, who is on the verge of flunking out of school. Rory attempts to, but of course, like, Jess is not interested in this, and instead in his bad boy charm convinces Rory to go. Sorry, Lorelai. Jess convinces Rory to go on a drive for ice cream. Now, this drive is by way of the car that Dean built for Rory.
The love car Dean built for this.
It's a love car.
He was like, Rory, I love you. I'm rebuilding this car for you, and that caused one of their early spirals. Yeah,
Yep.
He built this car at 17.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, cool. I'm not.
Yeah.
I understand how things work in this world. I'm just clarifying.
The show wants you to know that he's very much not smart, but also he built a car.
Right.
He's hands smart. He's
Yeah,
a working
He's blue
guy.
collar. He's a working man.
He's a working man.
Yeah, he would have dropped out of high school, but they had a VOTEC program.
That's right. That's
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
There's no Votech in Stars Hollow. That's not glitzy enough.
I doubt there's a single VOTEC in Connecticut, Andrew.
Yeah, that's also true. So Jess drives the love car that Dean built for Rory, and of course, what does he do, guys? What do you think he does?
He gonna wreck it.
He gonna wreck
Yeah,
it.
he absolutely
crashes
gonna
it.
wreck it.
So Lorelai flips out and blames Luke for Jess being an absolute menace to their town. Jess goes whatever and leaves and heads back to New York. And Luke and Lorelai come to terms. And everybody kind of breathes a sigh of relief because finally Jess is out of our lives for good. For good. And he's never
once
coming
and
back.
for all.
For at least a season, perhaps.
So Lorelai's arc here is that she's graduating from business school because her dream is to own her own hotel. May I remind you that she's kind of managing this other B&B. She wants to open up her own hotel, she and Suki.
In Stars Hollow, where there's not room for another hotel?
Well, maybe there will be later.
Okay.
No, I think we know about it at this point. There is an abandoned hotel that has been conveniently on the outskirts of town this whole time, and that's been on their vision board this whole time. Is we're gonna buy the Dragonfly Inn and own and operate it.
Yep. So Christopher's kind of in and out at this point, but again, he's got a very serious girlfriend, except they're not a very serious relationship because he literally admits to Lorelai that I'm about to break up with her. And then as soon as they're about to kiss, he gets a phone call saying that she's pregnant.
Of course.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Boy, this show is a trope machine.
It's good, man. It's good. It's cozy core to the max. So they don't get together, and Christopher decides to stay with Lori. Or Jesus Christ,
Lorelai.
No, Christopher decides to stay with Sherry. There's a lot of white bread names here. Rory skips out on Lorelai's graduation ceremony to take a bus to secretly see Jess in New York. And season 2 ends with Jess asking Luke if he can come back to live in Stars Hollow.
He wasn't even gone that long.
No, it was 3
episodes.
episodes.
2 episodes. Yeah.
All right, so season 3 reignites our love triangle with Jess back in town and Rory again all into his whole vibe, and Dean also super pissed about the whole situation. At this point, this is kind of funny. Dean is just in super puppy dog mode.
He's simping hard.
And it's you almost feel bad for him, but also you're dude, chill. And even at a point where Lorelai is dude, bro, chill. But also Lorelai's hey, Rory, can you just cut this other guy off and just date Jess already? Because holy shit, man.
You're leading Dean on.
Lane hooks up with a local band who is just so happen in need of a drummer and meets Dave Rogalski, the heartthrob lead guitarist played by Adam Brody in Image 11.
God.
What the hell?
We haven't had the guitar playing boy yet, so
yeah.
They're playing a gig at Lane's church to try and win Lane's mom over on Dave.
Yeah,
is the plot we're witnessing there.
Exactly. So season 3 with Lane is just trying to trick her mom into letting her date Dave Rogalski, who is Adam Brody pre the OC. That's it. It's cute.
Okay.
So Lorelai and Rory somehow get pulled into helping Christopher's girlfriend Sherry plan a baby shower, which is weird. Jess shows up with a new car and refuses to tell anybody how he got it, and everybody assumes that he stole it. That's a thing. And then the whole Dean, Jess, Rory love triangle comes to a head at the Stars Hollow Dance Marathon. This is a big episode, you guys.
This is a big episode.
This is what's the episode of The Office? This is the
dinner party?
beach. Yeah, this is the Beach Olympics of
Beach Olympics.
This is Beach Olympics. This is Beach
This
Day
the
episode.
the red wedding in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it's the red wedding.
No, it's not that.
Yeah, everybody fucking dies.
I haven't watched Game of Thrones or The Office.
That was really funny, Matt.
Beach Day or the We Were on a Break episode of Friends. Or
See, also we were on a break.
It's another show
Yep.
I haven't watched. Fuck.
So Dean, during the Stars Hollow Dance Marathon, there's some hijinks and goo goo eyes and other stuff that happens. And Dean's like finally like, fuck this, I'm out, I'm done. And then Jess and Rory is heartbroken, but literally starts dating Jess like 24 hours later.
Yeah.
At one point, Richard's mother, Trix, comes into town, and I don't want to talk a lot about Trix Gilmore, but like just to note that it's revealed that Richard's mother did like an Eleanor Roosevelt FDR thing, where like it's revealed that
they're closer cousins than they should be.
Richard's mother and father were first cousins.
Yeah.
In that, like, Trix's name, there's a comment where it's like, oh, like, who's the Gilmore? Like, did Trix inherit the name Gilmore? And like, oh no, she's the Gilmore. And like,
we're both the Gilmore.
We're both Gilmore.
Oh.
To and I quote, keep the bloodline pure.
No.
Yeah. So this is when the waspy stuff gets a little
like,
gets a little.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
boy, I didn't see that coming. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm back.
It's rough.
I thought you said this shit was cozy.
It's very funny that Richard's mom is played by Marion Ross. Richard's sister is also played by Marion Ross.
That's really funny.
And it's really funny. And they do a landfill thing where like Richard's sister comes to the funeral for his mom later on in the show, and it's just fucking Marion Ross.
Yeah.
That's really funny.
It's good. There's a couple examples of that. There's another one I'll point out later that's pretty funny. Rory and Jess are now legit dating, but things are definitely not as cracked up as Rory thought they would be. Jess, unlike Dean, is just not a boyfriend guy. He's just not a boyfriend guy.
She can't fix him.
She can't fix him, you guys. Like, he doesn't call. He just kind of shows up wherever he wants, whenever he wants to. Like, he's doing his own thing, right? And it's not working. Rory and Paris are planning for graduation, so this is, may I remind you, their senior year of Chilton. And again, they're pretty much like, they're straight up frenemies at this point. They're neck and neck as like valedictorian. Paris wants to run for president and convinces Rory to run for vice president. And then halfway through that, like, Paris stops showing up to stuff. So of course Rory becomes the de facto president, which like Paris is upset because like, you took this from me, blah, blah. Well, may I remind you that like Rory's whole thing was that she wants to get into Harvard, right? So, she went to Chilton, she should go to Harvard, blah, blah, blah. Rory and Paris both want to get into Harvard. We find out Paris does not get into Harvard and Rory does, because everything happens for Rory that she wants. She gets everything that she wants. And Paris flames out hard, and I linked this scene because I think this is probably one of the best Paris moments. Is the two of them are giving some speech at school, and Paris just like absolutely loses her mind because she had sex with this boy that she met who like genuinely like they were into each other, and then she shows up the next day and she's like, I didn't get into Harvard because I had sex. And she shows up, she's like wearing like a tracksuit. She's a mess, and it's a really funny scene. I think
I don't think it's exactly like them giving the co-valedictorian speech, but it's something like that. It's the whole
enough.
In front of the whole school, she like has this breakdown, and it's the best.
Don't worry, Paris is gonna be fine.
Yeah.
So Kyle mentioned the whole B&B thing, and Matt asked like, well, how's Lorelai gonna open a second B&B in Stars Hollow? Well, you see, Matt, what happens is the Independence Inn burns down in a wildfire.
A wildfire in Connecticut, Andrew. What?
That's correct.
What?
That's correct.
I don't think it's a wildfire. I think it's just like
it's like a
free
fire or something.
Yeah, it's like an electrical fire. It's an old building.
There's a big old difference between a grease fire and a wildfire, guys.
Yeah, I wrote wildfire. It was very late when I wrote this, okay?
A fire happens.
A fire happens.
Somebody does an arson.
It's wild. The fire is wild.
But like wild in that 2002 kind of way.
Yeah, and it's fine because the owner of the Independence Inn is super chill. She gets the money. It's all good. Lorelai and Suki then set their sights to purchase the Dragonfly Inn, the abandoned Dragonfly Inn, to reopen that as their own deal. So back to Rory. Rory's Rory gets into Harvard, but also gets into Yale. And this is a whole thing where so Richard and Emily went to Yale. Rory goes to visit Yale kind of off, in secret a little bit, and this is like kind of this like ad hoc thing. And Richard and Emily really want Rory to go to Yale because it's close to them, and it's like, again, like, hey, she's back in our world.
There's
blah,
the
blah,
legacy thing.
Yep, all that stuff.
Plus, Harvard didn't want to pay Harvard wouldn't let them shoot at Harvard. in the next season.
Exactly.
Is the
No shit, really?
yeah. Yale
Amazing.
Yale was like, yeah, we'll let you use Yale footage and stuff, and Harvard
Oh, wow.
Very funny.
it's not.
Yeah. So so this is kind of a thing in the back half of season 3 where Lorelai is furious because, again, she sees this as some sort of betrayal that like they're pulling Rory into this Yale world, blah blah blah. Well, despite Rory wanting to go to Harvard her whole life, she goes to Yale. She decides that she goes to Yale, and that's it. So their senioritis moment is Rory's still kind of dating Jess. They seem to kind of mend some ties a little bit. They go to a house party where Lane's band is playing, but the party ends up as a fucking disaster. This is the most like teen drama part of this show.
Yeah.
So Lane gets super drunk and she calls her mom to tell her that she's been secretly dating a white boy named Dave. And then there's a really ooky stuff where Jess tries to pressure Rory into sex in that like early 2000s teenage boy kind of way.
Yeah.
It has a very special episode vibe to it.
Yeah,
Where like the lesson is like how to deal with that. But
It's the
weird.
after school special episode.
Yeah.
It feels bad.
Yeah.
And like he doesn't like, it's very quick and then they move on.
Mhm.
Of course Dean's there, and of course Dean attacks Jess, and there's
Right.
an all-out fist fight that ends in a brawl on the lawn.
Rory like stumbles out of the room with like a few tears in her eyes, and Dean is there, and then Jess like all like follows out of the room, and Dean just like sees red and doesn't say a word and starts swinging at Jess. It's pretty great.
Yeah. Jess and Rory's relationship pretty much comes to a head when Jess is finally told straight up, like, hey, man, you're not graduating. You haven't come to class for 6 months. And it's revealed that he hasn't come to class because he's just been working at Walmart.
Yep.
What?
Full-time job.
Yep.
Employee of the month even at Walmart.
He's employee of the month at Walmart. All right.
What a weird twist.
Luke gets a call that he's like, hey, we're honoring your nephew as employee of the month. Do you want to come?
You know
See?
how it happens when you do well at work, they call your parents or your uncle.
Yeah, you know that.
Uh-huh.
And again, that's the one and only chain that's ever mentioned in this show. And you never see Walmart. You just see a vest once. So Jess is told that he can't go to prom. That means he can't take Rory to prom, and he's not graduating. So he just dips out. He skips out and he leaves Stars Hollow, this time for good. And I should note that there's an entire episode where Jess leaves and goes to Venice Beach to star in a spinoff plot that never happened, or in a spinoff pilot that never took off. So Matt, do you remember that episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with
I know what you're talking about, actually.
Is it Adrian
Pilecki? Who played Bobby Morse the first time?
Yes.
Yeah.
And like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was like, we're gonna do this whole other sideshow with Adrian Pilecki, and
is this spin-off the one that? Oh no, those years don't line up.
I'm saying this is the same vibe where like
the same episode.
Shows do this a lot where
yeah.
shows do this a lot. Well, they'll kind of like warm pitch a pilot.
Yeah.
So there's this whole like side episode where Jess goes to Venice Beach and he meets
His
up
dad.
with his dad, who is like just kind of a deadbeat piece of shit. But his dad is married.
But he's finally turning his life around. He owns a hot dog stand on Venice Beach.
Yeah,
What?
and his dad lives with this other woman who's like kind of quirky, like very Lorelai-esque. And Jess meets all these like weird, lovable goofballs in Venice Beach and learns that the Stars Hollow was inside of us the whole time.
Yeah, the real Stars Hollow was the friends we made along the way.
Yeah.
They're setting up the Venice Beach vendors to be this like other Stars Hollow for Jess to go be in, but the show never takes off. Dwight's farm episode of The Office is another.
They soft
another-
pitched the farm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So season 3 ends with Rory graduating from Chilton as the valedictorian, ready to start her new life at Yale. And we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we will talk about the Yale years.
Have you ever thought about movies like Con Air, City of Angels, Kiss of Death,
these Nick Cage movies, Todd?
Well, yeah, they are. But you know what's different about some Nick Cage movies?
I literally think about Nick Cage movies every day of my life.
What's different about these Nick Cage movies, Todd?
It's not those ones.
It's just Nick Cage movies in general?
It's The Wicker Man. Because what you see is you got a cage to contain your nicks. And that is what Manscaped does for you.
All right.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That would have worked
All
for Con
right.
Air as well.
Explain.
He's a prisoner. The plane is full of convicts. Con Air. It's the whole thing.
I'll tell you what the whole thing is, Kyle. Support for Debate This is brought to you by Manscaped, who is, in fact, the best and below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Hey, we talk a lot about Manscaped, and we appreciate their support for this show. I think the last time we talked about this, I said I had just bought the Beard Hedger. Highly suggest it. I get a lot of targeted ads for this. Thanks, Manscaped. It's pretty good. Ignore the targeted ads. It's like a dude on the golf course talking about how big it should be. It's a strange energy. But the Beard Hedger is very good.
Ignore the targeted ads. Do not ignore this ad.
Yeah.
Because
This
this
is not
is an
targeted.
ad for how you can use. If for one, it is not targeted, and for two, this is an ad about how you can
it's
use
targeted-
code debate this. Go ahead, make the joke.
It's targeted toward people that like puns. Go ahead.
Yeah, it is. It's targeted towards people who like puns. You can use code debate this, all one word, at checkout to get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. That is code debate this to get 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. TM.
All right, we are back. I'm going to cover seasons 4 through 7 here. The Yale years. We start season 4 with Rory and Lorelai returning from their long-planned graduation trip to Europe. It's a talking point all through season 3 that when Rory graduates, they're going to backpack Europe. And we get an update of the goings-on in Stars Hollow. Taylor is still a pain in the ass. Rory is the only child that matters to the denizens of Stars Hollow. And Luke got married on a boat. But it's okay, because they're also getting a divorce. And
Wait, Luke the diner guy got married on
Yeah.
a boat?
Luke
Yeah.
the diner guy got married on a boat, but it's
Oh,
okay
man.
because they got back and were like, we shouldn't have gotten married on that boat, and are getting a divorce. That all happened in the season break, if you will. And what? Rory wrote down the wrong date for orientation, and it's not in a week, but it's in 2 days. So we get a fun episode of
Beans.
Rory and Lorelai scrambling
Perfect.
around to do all of their before you go off to college things in 2 days. Luke agrees to help Lorelai move Rory in. More antics ensue. The will they won't they starts up again.
I want to interject and just show. I think this is a good example. So this episode in particular is a really good example and a reminder that Luke is the closest thing that Rory's ever actually had to add to an actual dad.
Yes.
In her life, because again, this is a very small town. They've been going to Luke's diner for years, and Lorelai and Luke have always had this relationship. So Luke has always kind of been this almost dad to Rory, and I think him moving her into college is the perfect encapsulation of that relationship.
Yes. That'll be a problem later.
That will be a problem later, which is why I brought it up.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. So Rory moves into a college dorm that is way nicer than anywhere I have ever lived in my entire life.
Yeah.
It's a 4-suite dorm room that they just get as freshmen. And we meet Rory's new roommates. We have a hyper-competitive soccer player, a 15-year-old prodigy who graduated early and is at Yale as a 15-year-old. So she's super weird and out of touch with everything. And the last roommate is, drumroll please, Paris Geller.
It's Paris. She's back.
Hey.
Paris Geller didn't get into Harvard, so she came to Yale and
Oh, darn.
and is
Yeah,
Rory's
bummer.
roommate.
Mhm.
Yeah. We also meet Marty, a new potential love interest for Rory. We meet him passed out naked in the hallway, and he will be referred to as Naked Guy for
Pretty much the rest of the show.
yeah.
Neat.
He's Marty, Naked Guy every time
Yeah,
he shows up.
he's weird. He's awkward. He sucks.
Yeah, their meet cute Rory gives him like her she like goes out to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night because it's a dorm and they don't have a bathroom in their 4-person dorm.
Oh yeah, that's it. That's the thing they don't have.
Yeah. So, and like he's passed out naked on the floor, so she gives him her bathrobe, and that's the meet cute. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Lorelai and Snooki are struggling with
Suki.
Suki.
Suki is a different thing.
No difference.
I made that typo last night and fixed it and said I'm gonna mess that up in the morning.
You sure are.
Lorelai and Suki are struggling to raise money / survive while the Independence Inn is closed and the Dragonfly Inn is not yet open and functional. So they take up freelancing catering gigs as a side job, and that has its own problems, as you can imagine.
They do a Lord of the Rings party because this was like 2003.
2003, yeah.
Mhm.
They do a
It's weird.
very, very tonally weird Lord of the Rings party. Luke struggles with his emotions as he's like going through this divorce, but also clearly in love with Lorelai, but he doesn't know what emotions are, so he struggles with that. And Rory struggles with Yale, but like normal freshman struggles. Like my roommates are weird. My grandma wants to buy me a very expensive living room set and puts it in my dorm without my permission.
You know how you do.
Someone is sitting under my favorite book reading tree. Normal first year of college struggles. Richard is getting pushed out of his company. We get a couple scenes in season 3 where he acknowledges like, oh, they're doing the like I'm getting old thing and like handing off some of my less important clients to new people. They're phasing me out. So Richard is approached by his former partner's son, Jason Stiles, aka Digger. Which we have in Image 12, who wants to go into business with him.
This guy's got cocaine eyes, Kyle.
This guy
does have cocaine eyes.
This guy definitely does coke.
I love Digger. He's my favorite of the boys.
This man looks insane.
Yeah, he's very likable, and he's a very much like a foil to Christopher, where he also grew up in this like high society, but kind of hates it, and is also a child of the 80s TM, and like can go toe to toe with Lorelai on her like wild, insane diatribes and quips and wit and all that.
Yeah,
he's fun. He's a good dude.
So they do that. Richard and Digger go into business together, and then Lorelai starts dating Digger behind everyone's back. They have this secret relationship for most of this season. This will be a problem later. On a return trip to Stars Hollow, Rory bumps into Dean. They awkwardly catch up, and we learn Dean is getting married, only like 6 months late into his relationship.
They are maybe 19, may I remind you.
They are
right.
Freshly graduated from high school. This will also be a problem later.
I'm seeing a theme. Theme of there's like 6 core relationships that don't ever go away. They just change.
That's right.
Yeah. Luke now starts dating his still wife as they commiserate about the divorce process together, and then they start dating again. Which sends
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
It's kind of a like, yeah, we shouldn't have gotten married on that boat, but that doesn't mean we don't work as a couple. We just like shouldn't have gotten married on that boat.
Sure.
This sends Lorelai into a tailspin because she finally like starts thinking of Luke in that way, like out loud to herself as well. So that causes Lorelai to start to spiral. A sort of B plot. Rory and Paris start working for the Yale Daily News. We meet some cast of characters there, including a future ongoing character named Doyle.
Doyle. I love Doyle.
Doyle is great. Doyle and Paris end up together. Well, I'll just spoil that now because I don't know where exactly it happens down the line.
Yeah, Doyle is great because Doyle is like 19 going on 45, you know? So he's this tired editor-in-chief. Like he's been doing this for 30 years, you know? He's just like, and
but only 3 months.
He's just stressed out. Yeah, and this dude is maybe 20. Like, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Doyle is a great like pairing with Paris. They're excellent together. We get some Yale Daily News B plots. They get hazed like they're in a fraternity or sorority. They get, they have to go chase down stories out of their comfort zone. There's a good plot where Rory writes this awful review of a ballet performance and like gets threatened by the ballerina later on because she's awful to this poor woman. But as an assignment for the newspaper, Paris has to interview a professor on campus, Asher Fleming, who is this tenured, world-renowned author, blah, blah, blah. And Paris and Asher start dating, which is
icky.
Which is
Gross.
Icky, weird. It's image 13. You can see he is
thrice her age.
He is
Yep.
an old.
He's grandpa.
Yeah.
It's Basil Exposition from...
It's Basil Exposition from the Austin Powers movies, yes.
Yeah. Okay, I hate every single inch of that.
Everybody does.
Everybody does.
Everyone
I'm glad
disliked
they
that.
do. Yeah.
I think Andrew took it out. Lane's band, their name is Hep Alien. That's what it is. We all have to deal with that as well here in
Why?
2023.
Who thought that was a funny joke? That sucks. That's not
Yeah.
even funny.
It's mid-2000s, man.
God damn.
So Dave leaves to go be on the OC. That is about as much of the explanation we get in show as well. It's
He went to college. He went
Yeah.
to another school.
Yeah. He died on the way back to his planet.
It's literally like, sucks that Dave went to school. We got to find a new guitarist now. So we get an episode of guitar auditions. And this gives us our other new character, Gil, the aging rocker who wants to get back in the game. He's image 14. He's played by Skid Row's Sebastian Bach.
Holy
No.
shit, I did not know this.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. Okay,
Matt's
first
all
off,
the way in.
when I looked at this picture, I thought it was Stevie Nicks. This is such an old picture of Sebastian Bach. I thought it was Stevie Nicks. Second off, this is far beyond Skid Row's prime. This was like Sebastian Bach trying to do a solo tour, and it was not working.
Yeah. While he was on Gilmore Girls, because he's on for the remainder of the run,
What?
Yeah.
He's
They got 3
really good.
seasons out of
And-
this guy?
Yeah, and he's great. He's really funny.
He's hilarious.
Because he's just so wholesome and just like so into playing in a band. And like the other people are children.
He's kind of like he's very similar to like Jack Black's character in School of Rock, where he really believes in the power of rock and roll, and he's super wholesome about it, and that's his whole character.
He also owns a sub shop.
And he owns a sub shop.
He's Meatloaf from Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah, kind of.
I love Gil. And we get an episode where the band sneaks Lane out of her house so they can go play a show in New York at 1 a.m. They book a spot at this club, and the spot they book is 1 a.m. Like, if you can come play it, it's yours. And they're like, we have to go play it. Everyone played this club. So they sneak Lane out. They get caught, and Lane gets kicked out of her house. So Zach, Brian, the lead singer and bassist of the band, and Lane all move in together, creating a new set piece.
This will be a problem later.
Yeah, this will be a problem later. Jess rolls back into town to pick up his car.
Oh, good.
Oh, great.
And causes no problems at all for anybody. Luke and Rory both get to tell him how they feel, and like how him leaving sucked, how just him bouncing out of town sucked, and they get to tell him off. And this kind of begins Luke's kind of emotional journey, where he starts to like peel through his layers of toxic masculinity for the rest of the show.
Isn't this when Jess is like, if he tells Luke something, is like, hey, if you want to just like date Laura, just fucking do it.
Yeah.
Like
Literally, he's like, you should. He's like, everyone knows. Ask her out. And Luke is like, what do you mean? He's like, you know what I mean. Like, do it. And then he leaves again.
Yeah. Because Jess turns into this like weird, like the sage old janitor. Like he just the rest of the show, he just shows up, and it's like he's wise beyond his years, and he just gives people advice, and then he leaves again.
He shows up when different characters are having their low moments,
when they need tough love,
and he says exactly the tough love that they need to hear, and then leaves again. It's great.
Yeah.
So Rory keeps having different Yale freshman problems. Paris continues to date her professor, and Lorelai gets some bad news. The repairs for the Dragonfly are racking up, and she's about $10,000 short of finishing it. The crew is she's behind on payments to the crew. They're gonna have to stop work soon. It's a whole big thing, but it's okay because Luke is gonna loan her the money, quote unquote, loan her the money. Luke gives her $10,000, no questions asked. This is when we start to find out Luke is also secretly loaded from years of just owning this diner,
from being the diner guy.
The only diner.
The only diner.
Well, there's two. There's
far
two.
we the audience know of one diner.
Yeah.
So that all works out. Trix comes back into town, Richard's mom, but this time she's a nightmare. She's awful. She treats Emily even more like shit than she did last time. So much so that Richard finally stands up to his mom for the what seems like the first time in his life. He's like, "You can't treat my wife this way. I need you to leave. I know you're my mom, but I need you to leave." And she does, and then promptly dies. She dies 2 episodes later.
Whoops.
That's when she does her little landfill Marion Ross bit.
Yeah. This sends Richard into a spiral, which sends Emily into a spiral. There's also a whole bit where Richard's old fiance, who he was engaged to before he left her for Emily, rolls into town.
Penelon Watt. That trollop.
Penelon Lott. We learn that not only has Richard been secretly seeing Penelon Lott once a year the entire time Richard and Emily have been married.
Scandalous.
We learn that, and then we learn that Trix wrote Richard a letter the night before Emily and his wedding, telling him, cancel this wedding and go back to Penelon Lott. So when Trix dies, Emily feels free and starts living the way she feels like Lorelai has lived her whole life. She just starts drinking in the afternoon. She starts wearing, quote unquote, her sluttiest clothes, which are still old woman waspy clothes.
Was this the only prostitutes have 2 glasses of wine at lunch? There's some good lines.
It sure was.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of deal with the fallout of that. Richard recovers, which causes Emily to recover. There's still tension. They're still very mad at each other, but they're not drinking all day anymore. Richard is leaving his bedroom and going to the office again. When Digger's father shows up and drops some news that the way you left my business and stole half my clients, I'm coming for you now. I'm coming for you specifically because I know you leveraged the Gilmore fortune against your business to get it off the ground. And I know by crushing you, I will destroy your family. And then drops the bomb. Oh yeah, my son and your daughter have been secretly seeing each other for months behind everyone's back. And then he leaves. And that's the last we see of Digger's father until the resolution. And this causes all kinds of fantastic problems for the show to solve. Richard and Emily put the screws to Lorelai to break up with Digger. She does, but doesn't want to do that because Luke is in the picture.
Yeah, she does the Lorelai thing.
She does the Lorelai thing. Some episodes of family drama over this. And then we have a weird episode where Asher Fleming has a heart attack and Paris realizes, holy shit, I'm dating an elderly man. I'm 19. I shouldn't be doing that.
Just a brief moment of sentience from nowhere.
Yeah. And they break it off.
Jess showed up and told her
You shouldn't be doing that.
You're dating an elder man.
Yeah.
So Dean starts confiding his newlywed troubles with Rory, which will be a problem later.
This will be a problem later.
They were like, oh yeah, you're married, I'm at college, let's be friends again. And then Dean immediately starts I hate my wife to Rory.
Oh, of course.
Which, yeah. It's bad. Just as Luke and Lorelai look like they're gonna finally give into their feelings for each other, Digger shows back up. Digger and Lorelai have broken up at this point. Or Lorelai's ended things with Digger. Digger does not take no for an answer, is the story here. And he shows up at the soft open of the Dragonfly Inn, which is another all the stories come to a head episode. So we have the opening of the Dragonfly Inn, where Lorelai invited Richard and Emily, who still are like not talking to each other. She tries to do a like parent trap, and like if I put them in a nice hotel room for the night, they'll have to get along. It does not work, and Rory and Dean are scooting closer and closer to each other on that proverbial couch, so to speak. So Digger shows up at the soft open of the Dragonfly and tells Lorelai, "I'm here. I'm not leaving until you agree to get back together with me." And she's like, "Well, you're gonna be waiting a long time."
You know how like well-adjusted adults do.
Yeah. Right. She's like, "You're gonna be waiting a long time because that's not happening." So Digger's like, "Cool." Parks himself in the lobby of the hotel. Luke shows up and he's like, "Hey, I think I've seen you around before. What are you here for?" He's like, "Oh, I'm Lorelai's boyfriend. I'm here with Lorelai. We're boyfriend and girlfriend." And Luke's like, "Cool," and flies into a rage, leaves, is convinced by Digger that this is the truth, and Lorelai has been leading him on for an entire season. Everyone's mad. Richard and Emily show up. Richard leaves because he's like, "I can't spend a night in a hotel room with this woman. I'm so pissed. She's so infuriating. I can't be here." So she leaves. It's all bad. This is our Empire Strikes Back, everything is bad ending as the season starts to wrap. Because the last thing we get here is Lorelai goes home where Rory and Dean have been, and she walks in on Rory and Dean about 30 seconds post-coitus.
In Rory's childhood bedroom.
In Rory's childhood bedroom.
Yucky.
Rory lost her virginity. Like that night, that moment, like it's a whole thing. Lorelai walks in and is like, "Oh, hey Rory, how's it going?" And like Rory like stumbles out of her bedroom with like zip sex hair, and Dean immediately stumbles out after her and they're like, "Hey mom, what's going on? Like we're not." And Lorelai immediately clocks what happened. They get in a huge fight about how awful it was that Rory had sex with a married man.
He's like 20.
And everyone's mad at each other. Everyone in the whole show is mad at everyone else. And it's great. So with everyone pissed off, Emily and Rory go to Europe together to do it the right way.
No, you can say the white way. That's okay.
It's all right.
Literally, Emily is like, "You did the poor like hobo's way of seeing Europe. Now let's do it with some class and money." And we end the season with the largest rift between all of the Gilmore Girls so far. Season 5. We come back in season 5. Rory and Emily are wrapping up their Europe vacation in Rome. Dean awkwardly approaches Lorelai in Stars Hollow and is like, "Hey, can you pass a note on to Rory for me? She's not taking my calls." I wonder why. That Dean and Lindsay, his wife, are getting a divorce, which is now the big town scandal. This has been the Stars Hollow scandal all summer, that Dean and Rory slept together, and then Rory went to Europe, and now Dean and his wife are getting a divorce. So Rory is not the golden child of Stars Hollow anymore. And in fact, the town kind of takes sides, whether Lindsay is the golden child now or if Rory is.
Yeah, this is a recurring thing where the town really loves to take sides. And there's even an episode later on in the show where like there's t-shirts and ribbons.
Yeah.
It's like a Gangs of New York situation.
Yeah, it's something.
So Rory comes back. She starts back at Yale. She comes back on the weekends to Stars Hollow, and she and Dean start seeing each other again, and it's terrible. No one is having a good time. Rory and Dean aren't having a good time. The audience isn't having a good time. They're broke. Like, Dean's got the divorce to pay for, and Rory's a student. Plus, there's a commute to and from Yale that factors in. So, like, they can't do anything. The town hates them, so they have to, like, stay inside. It's awful for everyone involved. But they're going to tough it out because they're Dean and Rory, high school sweethearts. If they can't make love thrive, then who will?
Who amongst us?
whomst amongst us. This is about when we meet our new character for season 5, billionaire heir to a media conglomerate, Logan Huntsberger, who is Image 15.
You know the family in Succession? This is him. This is the Huntsbergers.
The Huntsbergers are like a mashup of the Murdochs and the Kennedys, and it's and they're our bad rich family for the rest of the show. Logan is rude, he's smart, he's rich, he's dreamy. Rory is immediately attracted to him, but still with Dean. Like, she thinks it's that she hates him, but actually she loves him thing because she's still with Dean. Lorelai tries to start warming up to Dean, is kind of has this like, well, he's going to be in my life, I can't hate him thing. And they actually kind of start getting along. They like start hanging out when Rory blows Dean off for Yale things because Dean's a bumpkin. So they start to like form this little relationship. Emily and Richard have put aside their feud over a bigger threat to the family, their daughter and granddaughter both dating pores.
I can just imagine the villain arc of them, like, just again, maybe even happens in the episode, them saying we need to focus on the bigger threat. Like,
it is kind of like that. Yeah.
It literally, like, in more words. So Lorelai and Luke are like starting to not date, but they're friendly again. They're seeing each other. So that's one. They're like, oh, like anyone but Luke. And then Rory is still with Dean, who is a college dropout, divorcee, bumpkin, and they can't have these men tainting the Gilmore bloodline,
which is canonically pure.
They need to find some good cousins.
Yeah. So they like bring Luke in and are like, yeah, we want to franchise Luke's Diner, so we can at least kind of show you off to our society friends, like, as a successful person. Don't worry about any of the work. We're gonna do all the work for you. You're gonna be your job is just to be Luke of Luke's Diner. Don't worry about it. And Luke and Lorelai both hate that. It's awful. Rory starts spending more time with Logan because he is forced by his media conglomerate owning dad to work at the Yale Daily News. So he begrudgingly has to take a desk in the newsroom and torment Rory in a way that they fall in love with each other. We learn that Logan is in a Skull and Bones type secret society.
What?
Which, Rory sees a like weird clandestine meeting at night between him and secret society people. So she's like, this is going to be my big story for the newspaper for the quarter.
Yeah, because Rory writes one story a year.
So Logan like clearly catches on to her like tailing him and is like, you wanna see what my secret society is about? And he invites her to one of their events. The secret society is called the Life and Death Brigade. And as far as the show tells us, they go to weird locations, dress in rich Renaissance fair cosplay, and jump off of stuff. Both Life and Death Brigade events we see end with them jumping off of stuff.
Yeah, there's this whole thing where they like for a whole day they can't use e's in sentences. Like,
no, that's just one guy. There's just one guy.
There's that one guy. Okay,
yeah, he's like, oh, his thing, he's not using e's.
It's very silly, stupid rich kid bullshit.
Yeah,
Great. It's like they're an acting troupe with a parkour problem.
It's how can we portray this secret society on our family friendly show and make them look weird, and that's what the conclusion they come to.
Right.
Logan also gets Rory a job with his dad, Mitchum Huntsberger, who, as I said earlier, is basically Rupert Murdoch meets Ted Kennedy. He owns every newspaper in America. He's rich and charming, but also an asshole too. It's great. It's the New Haven Gazette, I think it is. She goes to intern at, and she gets her first taste of a real newsroom. Dean eventually leaves Rory because she's spending all of her time at Yale and with Logan, and is finally like, can't take this anymore. All of their scheming has made Richard and Emily fall back in love with each other, and they decide to renew their vows because episode 100 is coming up and we need a wedding to put in episode 100 because that's the show it is. So in the run up to the not wedding, Luke is like collapsing under the constant pressure from Richard and Emily and leaves Lorelai. He's like, I love you and want to be with you. I can't be with your family. I can't take the family part of it, of the deal. So during photos after the ceremony, Lorelai tells Emily, we're over, we're through, and cuts off all contact.
For like the 7th time.
For the 7th time. She skips like 3 family Friday dinners. It's a big moment. Emily and Richard are happy to kind of have Rory to themselves for a while, though. Like, they're mad at Lorelai, but they're also like, well, we can now like pull Rory more away from the influence of Lorelai. And they're very happy that she is dating a billionaire heir, basically. They're very, very happy when they learn that her and Logan are seeing each other. On the last day of her internship with Mitchum, he sits her down and tells her, like, hey, you aren't cut out to be a journalist. I've been watching you here. You
only write 1 story a year.
Right.
Not enough stories.
You get coffee really well. You take notes really well. You'd be a good assistant for somebody, but not a journalist. And Rory, for the first time in her life, not getting exactly what she wanted when she wanted it, goes into a spiral.
Loses her goddamn mind.
Loses her mind. She's also failing a class at Yale, but it's also before the ad drop period. So the professor tells her, like, yeah, you should probably just drop this class. Like, take it again next year. And she's like, no, I need to take it this year because, and she spirals and she steals a boat about it. Her and Logan go steal a boat.
What?
Her and Logan go steal a boat. They crash the boat. Lorelai flies into a rage that, like, yet another boy is this awful influence on Rory. Yet another, like, call in the middle of the night that you were in a crash. And Rory's like, no, Mom, it's not Logan's fault. I did it. I wanted to steal the boat because I'm spiraling. And Lorelai can't handle that, flies into a rage. And this all culminates with Rory dropping out of Yale and moving into Emily and Richard's pool house to take like a gap year and figure her life out, but also just be a rich society girl for a little bit. Lorelai can't handle that because it's always been her thing. Like, I'm going to see you through to college. So she promptly returns to Stars Hollow, shows up on the footsteps of Luke's diner, and proposes to Luke. Roll credits, end of season 5.
Okay.
Crashed the whole ass boat.
She crashed the boat.
So
They sure are running out of plot.
The moral of the story is, if you are planning to propose to a significant other, you should definitely do so on a whim and reactionary to something that's very traumatic happening in your life.
Phenomenal life advice, truly.
There's that like trope of when a show jumps the shark. You have to tell me, did they crash the boat while jumping a shark?
Yeah, I think it is worth noting this is probably like the show's attempt to like really inject some like high stakes drama. And I will say the last couple seasons is you definitely start to see a dip in quality, specifically with the gas leak year in season 7.
Yeah. I should point out that we do get like the court episode of the fallout of the boat where Richard hires this big shot lawyer. They're like, oh, we're going to get you off with 10 hours of community service and a fine, which we're going to pay because we're rich. And the judge like sees all of them in his courtroom and he's like, I am tired of you rich people coming to my town, crashing boats.
Crashing boats every which way.
Like, this cannot stand, and I'm giving you the full, like, you have 300 hours of community service to do. You are not rich girling your way out of this one. So there is like some comeuppance here. Like, we start to see Rory really, really deal with like, oh, the sun does not always shine on me. And yeah. Season 6. We pick up right where we left off after Lorelai proposes to Luke in a very obviously well thought out, definitely not spur of the moment, full of emotions proposal. It's awkward. Rory, now on hiatus from Yale, is living in Richard and Emily's pool house.
Of course.
Fills her days with charity work like Emily. She is planning Daughters of the American Revolution meetings and fundraisers. She is hobnobbing. She's socializing. She goes to tea.
Yeah. If only there was some sort of like tough love, something that she needed to hear from somebody to snap her back to reality.
Yeah. Good news, Andrew.
And
ghost
my
of
boy
Christmas.
Jess.
The ghost of Christmas past has shown up again.
Jess rolls into town.
Yeah,
and
he does.
And she very like proudly shows him all of the things she's doing. Like, look at this amazing party I planned. Look at this great pool house I have to myself. Yeah, I dropped out of Yale. What about it? And Jess looks at her and is like, what the hell are you doing? What is happening here?
Yeah.
It was like, you were gonna go to Harvard. You were gonna be Ariana Huffington, and like now you're living in a pool house doing rich girl things. What happened? And then he leaves, and Rory like pulls her life back together and goes back to school, quits doing socialite stuff, and is like, he's right. I'm gonna do it.
That was the tough love that I needed.
And like she does it. She like makes up for her missed quarter of school and all of that, and it's great. So catching up with Jess, he now lives in Philadelphia, and he publishes independent books in like this publishing commune.
Because of course he does.
It's pretty cool. I like
What an arc.
I
Yeah.
like that arc for Jess. He's become very well adjusted in the last 3 years. He's hosting a poetry slam when we catch up with him in Philly. It's fun.
Very silly.
Rory and Logan keep doing the on again, off again stuff. Logan can't seem to figure out what he wants in life. He's the burnout rich kid. He's Van Wilder. Logan is Van Wilder.
Got it. Yeah.
This is his 7th or 8th year of school. His dad finally throws down the gauntlet of like, you got to graduate this year and join the family business, or I'm cutting you off. And that's a whole thing. Back in Stars Hollow, Luke and Lorelai are planning a wedding. Lorelai, to fill the void left by her daughter not talking to her, gets a dog, names him Paul Anka. That's fun.
Because she's a child of the 80s.
She's a child of the 80s. Surprisingly, the dog does not fill the void left in her life by her best friend daughter.
So the dog gets depressed and crashes a boat.
No,
That's season 8.
that's season 8. Paul Anka the dog is there the rest of the show. He's there. It's a set piece now. Hep Alien is still playing gigs, but Zach starts to get all weird and frontman-y about it. So
He and Lane are dating by this point.
yeah.
It doesn't matter. Their arc sucks, but they're dating
Yeah.
at this point.
It's the most disappointing relationship in the show.
Yeah.
After even before Paris and the old teacher.
No, Paris and Doyle's great. Oh, Paris
No.
and the teacher, that sucks
Yeah.
too.
I mean,
Yeah.
that sucks too, but like that.
Choose
is
your
supposed-
fighter.
That's
Yeah.
supposed to suck. We're supposed to be rooting for Zach.
Oh,
and
gotcha.
Yeah.
So Zach gets all weird. They play a gig for an agent, and he like trashes the gig. He brings this new weird guy to play with him, and he buys all this new equipment and like goes all rock star and like trashes the stage and ruins their shot at getting signed because Zach sucks. In the fallout of that, he proposes to Lane, and to everyone's disappointment, she says yes.
Mhm.
So Rory at this point has completely like seen the strings Emily has been pulling to get her to live in the pool house, and gets out from under Emily's thumb. We get a fun bit of Emily crashing every time Rory and Logan try and hook up in the pool house. Emily appears to prevent shenanigans from happening.
They bring a pastor to like talk about like
Yeah.
something
about saving yourself.
Yeah,
from,
saving yourself for marriage.
Yeah,
Classic. Yeah.
It's good. So Rory goes back to Yale. She makes up with Lorelai. Everything is all great and hunky-dory, except Luke learns as she enters back into his life that he actually has a 13-year-old daughter that he didn't know about.
It was only a matter of
Uh-oh.
time. It was only a matter of time.
April Nardini walks into Luke's diner one day and tells Luke, I'm doing a science fair project on DNA, and you and 2 other guys Mamma Mia'd my mom, and I'm making my science fair project on who is my dad.
Yeah.
And she like takes a hair from him and leaves. Like their whole introduction is like 13 minutes long.
Image 16 is April Nardini, and if you are a fan, I think this show was on Freeform. This is Vanessa Marano, and I believe she starred in a couple other like future teen dramas. I forget what the name. I'm not looking it up.
It's not important. So April and her mom Anna Nardini enter Luke's life, and Luke very much wants to be in April's life. He wants to be like make up for the 13 lost years that he didn't get with her, and that starts to cause a rift between him and Lorelai. We should also point out that April is also a doe-eyed whiz kid who loves to read. She loves science. She's different from Rory in that April loves science.
She's green and Rory is blue.
Yeah,
right.
She is otherwise new Rory.
Almost as if Alex Bledel was getting a little old and they wanted to see if they could recapture the magic.
We might need to spin the show off again in a
Right.
few years.
Yeah.
Let's seed some characters for that. So Luke and Lorelai are back to focusing on being parents. Lorelai's gonna see Rory through Yale, and Luke is gonna make up for 13 years of not being in his daughter's life. So they push the wedding to the point where no one even really wants to get married anymore. They're all like, they start to fall apart, basically. The news comes out eventually that Luke has been, meeting his daughter without telling Lorelai. So there's an awkward introduction. Anna comes into the picture and tells Luke, like, I don't want my daughter hanging out with Lorelai. She's too cool. I'm not as cool a mom as her, and Lorelai's gonna steal my daughter away.
It should also be noted that the woman that plays Anna Nardini, April's mother, also is the same woman that played the wife of Jess's dad. And
That's
the
right.
actress, I forget her name, but she was in Twin Peaks. And like the show just like is just like, hey, forget that we've had this woman on before. She doesn't exist.
Really funny.
She exists in a different reality. It's
She
very funny.
also plays a similar character in Riverdale. She's one of the characters' moms in Riverdale. So things are not great, but they're not terrible either. Except, guess who rolls back into town? But the motorcycle riding, Metallica listening dad, Christopher, comes back and again, just to fuck things up. He's just there to fuck things up. We learn why he's back in town. His dad died, and Christopher's loaded now.
Oh, shit.
He's got plot money. He never was doing bad. He like started a tech company or something, and that was
May
like,
I remind you, this is 2005.
This is 2005.
right.
Yeah.
He was doing like okay off the tech money, and then his dad died, and he got the family fortune. He's like, no, I'm like loaded now. Like Yale paid for. You want a house? I'll buy you a house. You want the moon? I'll buy you the moon. Like he's loaded now. And he tries to buy his way back into Rory and Lorelai's life. And Rory wants nothing to do with it. She's like, no, Mom is with Luke now. You need to leave. And Christopher's like, no, I want Lorelai. That all culminates in Christopher and Luke having a brawl in the street.
Yeah.
Does Luke show up at Christopher's? Or vice versa.
I forget. There's something with a snowman where like there's a snowman involved.
Okay.
It's very much. I mean, it is an exact foil from that house party 3 years later.
Yeah,
with like
yeah.
Jess and Dean. That is what we're doing here. It's like mother and daughter. The cycle continues, right? Like that's the bit.
Christopher pays off Yale. Richard and Emily feel as though that they have been betrayed or slighted, because the whole deal was, we're going to pay for Yale if you keep coming to Friday night dinner. Chilton was paid for, we'll do it again for Yale if you keep coming to this. And Rory goes in and is like, hey, good news. You guys don't have to pay for Yale anymore. Christopher's doing it. And they are immediately like, so that means you're never coming to see us again because you don't have to come to Friday night dinner? Whatever. Logan, the ultimatum with Logan graduating finally comes to a head. Mitchum basically says, like, you are coming with me to London in a week to start to learn the family business, or else. And Logan does. He agrees to do that. So Rory sends him off with a very 2005 Quentin Tarantino party where all of the like supplemental rich white characters come back into the show for an episode to have a rich white party. It's fun.
It kind of, I think this was their attempt to kind of like sign off all of the college years, because we are now hitting the point where they didn't know if they were going to get another season. So they needed to either like tie these stories together because the WB had folded over, or is like, do we get more? Can we squeeze more out of this? Yes or no?
So after the fight with Christopher and Luke, Luke breaks it off with Lorelai, and Lorelai goes back to Christopher. It's not great. We start to see Christopher is living this single dad life with his daughter, because Sherry left him. Sherry was like, I want to go girl boss again, and left him. And so Christopher is like struggling with this bratty toddler of a daughter. Lorelai tries to parent her as well, and Christopher's like, no, don't do that. Don't parent my daughter. But they start moving closer and things start sucking again. So Luke and Lorelai are finally confronting their tension. She does her thing where she tries to pressure Luke into eloping with her right now. It's like, let's do it. Let's run away. Let's get married. Not deal with any of the complicated things that go around that. Not talk about it first. Let's just go do it. And he's like, no, I have a daughter that I want at our wedding. And like, we all agreed, like, we're going to do this the right way, and ends it with her. So Lorelai ends up back with Christopher.
Good.
The ending that everybody wanted.
Ending that everybody wanted. Season ends with Lorelai waking up in bed and Christopher like rolling over and appearing behind her in that bed.
You know how like everybody cheered when Jim and Karen got together, right?
Yeah,
right. The best pairing.
So this brings us to season 7, the gas leak year.
You've said gas leak so many times,
do you get that reference? It's Community season 4. So Dan Harmon got fired by NBC and Community, and season 4 of Community was not made by Dan Harmon. And Dan Harmon eventually came back, but when Dan Harmon came back, there was this weird plot line with a zombie apocalypse in early season 4 of Community, where they did like a gas leak thing. That's why there was a zombie apocalypse for the Halloween episode. But then they retconned that entire season because it went a different way than Dan Harmon wanted, and Dan Harmon officially in canon called it the gas leak year, and like retconned the entire season in season 5.
I had no idea.
Me neither.
I didn't realize that was not more of a well-known thing, but that's why we keep saying that.
Yeah. So this is the final season of this chunk of the run. Amy Sherman Palladino and Daniel Palladino are not part of the creative team anymore. Entirely new showrunner, head writer. I don't even know their name because it's not important.
Doesn't matter.
This isn't terrible, but it's definitely different. So Lorelai and Christopher are hooking up again after the engagement falls through, and Logan is off in London being a rich media conglomerate owner. He's actually doing well. He's like not a screw up for the first time in his life. He like cares about something finally, because it's like not school and it's like actually a job, and he kind of actually is good at it.
Logan gets real into the World Wide Web because again, it's 2006.
If this story was written in 2020, Logan would have been doing crypto things.
He's doing a Zuckerberg,
or he'd be doing AI. He'd be doing AI now.
Yeah,
like
whatever.
Christopher and Lorelai get married. They
Fantastic.
Christopher, Lorelai runs her like, hey, let's go elope plan by Christopher, And he's like, hell yeah, let's lock this down. I'm like set. Like, let's do it. And they go to Paris because he's rich, and they want to do a location episode in Paris, I guess. And that's weird. He throws money around. It's fine.
It's gross.
So they come back, and he moves back to Stars Hollow. He is we start to see that he is like giving up all of his rich guy dreams now to make Lorelai happy. And every time he has to do that, it's a bigger and bigger pill for him to swallow, that he's like, oh no, she really does want to like live in Stars Hollow for the rest of our natural lives. Great. He does not fit in with Stars Hollow. It doesn't belong here. He's rich. He's an outsider. He's
not Luke.
He's not Luke. He does not like he does not like the quirks of the town. This is shown very, very fun. They have a town festival fundraiser thing, doing a knit-a-thon to raise money for a bridge.
Cool.
They're trying to build a bridge. They do a knit-a-thon. It's one of the big like town festivals Stars Hollow has. It's also like the first one Christopher is actually like there for, and he ruins it by showing up like 5 minutes into this fundraiser, and he's like, guess what, guys? I paid for the bridge. We don't have to do this whole fun thing you had planned all weekend.
What a monster.
Because I paid for the bridge. And everyone's like, thanks, I guess.
Cool,
but
man.
We wanted to do the knit-a-thon. Like, it was more about the knitting than it was the bridge. Just cementing how much Christopher does not fit in with Stars Hollow. After Lane's disappointing marriage to Zach, she has an even more disappointing surprise pregnancy with twins. They're cementing their entire lives in Stars Hollow.
Yep, that's it. That's what they get. That's their life. We're done.
Bummer.
That's a roll on Lane and Zach.
Rory is now living in Logan's empty apartment. When Logan left to London, he's like, hey, yeah, you don't have to like find roommates for your last year at Yale. Just live in my swanky Hartford, Connecticut apartment. So she does. And she meets two new friends, but the friend we care about is Lucy, played by Kristen Ritter. Image 17 there. Kristen Ritter shows up for this whole season. She's here. She's a friend. It's great. Love it. Rory spends the first half of this season senioring it with Kristen Ritter. Her character's like an art major, so they go to like art shows and gal around town, basically. Things go south when it is revealed that Lucy's mysterious boyfriend, it's an ongoing bit for a while that like Lucy has this boyfriend that we have not seen, and this boyfriend is naked guy Marty from freshman year at Yale.
Yeah.
And
who was like super in love with Rory, and
Rory super in love with Rory.
Rory was like, oh no,
he nice guys about it when
he nice guys.
He like
real
nice
hard.
guys about it when he leaves, and then shows back up. When he shows back up, tries to do this weird thing of when Lucy introduces the two, he does the like, oh yeah, nice to meet you for the first time ever. We have never ever met each other before, certainly not.
Right.
I'm happy to meet you for the first time. And Rory, trapped in this situation, goes along with it. So episodes happen. It comes out that Marty and Rory have a bit of a past. Lucy ditches Marty almost immediately, is mad at Rory for a bit, but they're fine. They get over it. Power of friendship prevails. And then that's more or less the end of Lucy. That's Lucy's arc.
She probably dies.
She might have died.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who knows?
Just gone.
Yeah.
Logan is doing a Zuckerberg in London. He invests in a tech startup that fails and loses a bunch of his dad's money. So he does the equivalent of stealing a boat about it and just like drinks himself back to Connecticut. Yeah. While in Connecticut, he spends a quarter of the season whiny, doing rich guy shenanigans, just being drunk, showing up places, fixing it with money. It's obnoxious. Rory like sits him down. He's like, "No, you went off. You chose to go to London and do this thing, and you fucked it up. man up about it. Like she puts on the Jess hat and gives him some tough love. And it works. Back in Stars Hollow, Luke is told by Anna that Anna and April are moving to New Mexico because she got a job there, plot or something. And so begins the long, litigious battle Luke has to get part custody of April.
This child he just found out about.
This child
That's
he
right.
just found out about. He gets it. It's a big victory for in the show that like might even be like you didn't just get the partial custody you asked for. You got like half custody or something. Like
This
you
your
get
kid
6
now.
months.
Mhm.
You get 6 months out of the year or something. It's great. Part of this process is he asks Lorelai for a character reference. They are not on like friendly terms again yet at this point, but are like settling back into that. So she does. She writes him this great character reference, which she does not tell Christopher about because her and Christopher are not getting along. And Christopher finds out about this letter. He reads it and he's like, holy shit, Lorelai is like super duper still in love with Luke and not me. And he leaves. He leaves forever. Much to everyone's happiness.
Yeah, everyone cheers.
Everyone
Right,
cheers.
yeah.
The town gets involved.
Yeah. Rory is on the cusp of graduating. She's applying for internships and all of that follows. And Logan throws a wrench into all of these plans. He accepts a job in San Francisco and asks Rory to marry and move with him to San Francisco.
A thing that people would like even less than the Christopher marriage, I think.
That's
Right.
correct.
Yeah.
Rory thinks about it, but realizes she needs to be an independent woman, and capital I, capital W.
So you gotta get that bread, baby.
Mhm.
She got
She
to
do.
live her own life. She's not gonna be tied down by it. She's not gonna let a man define her life. She's gonna
Hell yeah.
define it. And she decides to stay here on the East Coast and pursue journalism. The series wraps with Rory accepting a job covering Barack Obama's election campaign.
Wow.
This is
There you
2006.
What a timestamp.
It's very much
2007, I think, at this point, but yeah.
Yeah, it's very much a like I got this weird job offer to follow this young upbeat politician
Yeah, this
named
upstart guy.
Barack Obama. Luke rallies the whole town. It's another like she has to leave in 24 hours situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Luke rallies the whole town to throw a series finale party for Rory, pulling in every Stars Hollow denizen and character that is on good terms with the Gilmore Girls.
Yeah, all the friends we've made along the way.
Yeah.
Luke and Lorelai reconcile and kiss, alluding to the fact that here at the series finale, they are finally get their happily ever after.
Yep. So that's Gilmore Girls.
What a journey.
It's been quite a ride. One of the things in the fandom, probably the most famous thing, is picking a team. And so we did this with Fire Emblem. Everybody in the Gilmore Girls fandom has a waifu. There go. We're gonna need each of you to pick a team, and your options are now. Do you choose Team Dean? Do you choose Team Jess? Or do you choose Team Logan? Now I want to
Picking
say,
husbandos.
yeah, husbandos. Now I want to
Husbandos.
clarify. All three of these choices are bad. All three of
Right.
these
There's
men,
not a right answer to this question.
but you
Well,
have to pick one.
It's definitely not Logan.
No, it's absolutely
you.
not
Yeah,
Logan.
it's certainly
See,
not Logan.
I'm Team Logan.
Oh.
I think
Mhm.
You pervert.
I think Rory and Logan are made for each other. I think they're like awful together.
Yeah.
Because Rory wants to be the socialite girl, and Logan wants to be slightly rebellious, which is how his family feels about Rory, that she's like the rebellious, plucky choice. We'll talk about who he actually ends up with in the post show. Not our post show, the show's post show.
The show's post show. I on the other hand am Team Jess because I like Jess as a character and I love that he shows up as this like wise old janitor cliche.
I think that's
Yeah.
the pick.
Now Rory and Jess are a terrible relationship.
My reason for not picking Jess is that I don't think Jess deserves to end up Like Jess is
Yeah,
too good to end up.
She's not
with
good
Rory.
enough for him.
Fair.
Rory's not good enough for Jess.
Yeah.
Julie, my partner, texted me from the other room, "Boo, Team Jess forever." So that's
There you
that's
go.
where the divisions in our household lie.
House divided sign is out front.
No
Yeah.
one is Team Dean. That's the one thing that we can all agree on. Nobody likes Dean. So Todd, Matt, without any more context, where do you lie?
The Christian youth group girls you like went to high school with might be Team Dean. That's
Oh,
the
trust
only
me, I know people who like Dean.
Right.
Yeah.
You didn't give me the option of Tristan, and so I guess I'm gonna go Jess.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, similarly, I don't get the option of Zach, so I'll go Jess.
Oh, Zach sucks even harder than Logan.
Yeah, but like it's Sebastian Bach, man. Like
Gil. Gil is Sebastian.
Gil.
Okay,
is
well then I'm
Sebastian
Team
Bach.
You're
Gil.
Team
I don't
Gil.
fucking-
You're Team
It
Gil.
was noun soup like an
It
hour
was
and a
noun
half
soup.
ago.
What is
Yeah,
a
yeah.
Dave Rogalski? Is that anything in this
That's
option?
Adam Brody. That's good.
Okay.
Yeah, Adam Brody or Dave Rogowski rules.
Yeah.
All right. Let me quickly we'll cover the Where Are They Now. That was the Netflix. Fortunately, nothing really happens in the Netflix series. It's just fan service because it's a revival. It's 10 years after. It's the thing that everybody is doing now.
They
Yeah.
set up a second season
Yeah.
of this revival, and it's not
It's not gonna happen.
happening.
So it's just a bunch of wink and nods and whatever. So let's catch up with our friends. So Gilmore Girls: A Day in the Life aired on Netflix in November of 2016. As Kyle mentioned earlier, these are each 4 1.5 hour long like mini movies that all cover one season in a year, and they are named winter, spring, summer, fall. I should note that Edward Herrmann, who played Richard Gilmore, actually passed away in 2014, right before they filmed this. So a major plot beat into the storyline was Lorelai, Rory, and Emily all moving on after his death, after Richard's death. So image 18 is just a promo image of them, just so you can see how time has passed. That's them at the funeral. So winter starts with some fan service and flashbacks to Richard's funeral. And then focuses on a rift in Lorelai and Emily's relationship, surprise, surprise, which were caused by some events during that funeral. Lorelai has been with Luke since the end of season 7, and pretty much they've just been kind of doing their thing. They live in Stars Hollow. They live in the same house. They do the same thing every day in, day out. They're good. They got their happily ever after. They're not doing a whole lot.
They're not married.
They're not married,
that's-
I should note. Yeah.
That is like they are together and they're happy, but like
Yeah.
part of that is that they're not married.
Well, she's still legally married to Christopher, so
Yeah. Now, Rory, on the other hand, has experienced the slow decay of her dreams becoming reality.
yes.
As we see her.
Yes.
If you'll remember, she left to be a journalist.
That's correct. In 2006.
About a year or two before print media died.
So Rory is living the very real life of a 30-year-old and finding that, hey, maybe life kind of sucks. And things don't work out. And this is what I really did love about the shows, the way that they wrote Rory is like, she very much does not get everything that she wants. And we see her struggling to get work in like failing news outlet after failing news outlet. She's also like trying to provide life support on this dying book deal that's never really happening. She's fine because she comes from a wealthy family and you got white privilege, but like she's not doing great. So she comes back to Stars Hollow, adamant that she is not back. A conversation that all 4 of us I know have had at one point. Like, hey, you're back. No, I'm not back. I'm just visiting. Like it's that.
I'm here.
Right.
I'm not back.
Yeah. Also, she's got a boyfriend. She's been dating this guy named Paul, who we see in one scene, and he's a very nice but boring man. However, we find out that she's secretly hooking up with a very married Logan, and they are just like absolutely like doing this. And like, there's these scenes with Logan being like pretending like he's talking to his boss, and it's like it's her, and it's like it's real gross.
Ew.
But again, like the show doesn't want it to be seen as anything but gross.
It's not a sympathetic light.
Yeah, right.
It's a recurring bit with Paul, the boyfriend, that he's the most forgettable man in the world.
Awesome.
No one remembers him and has met him on like 4 separate occasions. Rory keeps like forgetting to she'll be like, "Oh crap, Paul called me 8 hours ago and I never responded to him." Like he is the most forgettable man in the world.
Yeah.
Winter turns to spring. I'm doing in air quotes. Lorelai and Emily are doing their whole thing. They're in therapy. That's the latest caper. Which is, again, it's fun. Rory's book deal is done, and she decides instead to write a book about her own experiences. And she's doing the thing. We'll get there in a minute. Meanwhile, she's getting denied by more and more news outlets. She can't even get a job with like a clickbaity, like a BuzzFeed kind of thing, because this is 2016. Jess, meanwhile, is a successful publisher and just like all around awesome dude. He shows up in his like business leather, you know,
my man.
And, he's got business khakis.
Business leather. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. And he's like, he's giving her the old tough love. She's like, I could have been something. And he's like, you had it in you the whole
you still
time,
could
kid.
Be, yeah.
You can still do it, kid. You know, he's it's so good. Meanwhile, we see her catch up with Dean. Dean is a happily married man. He's got 3 kids. He's just a dad.
He's got supernatural money now.
He's got supernatural money.
Supernatural's been on the air for 17 years.
He looks
at this point.
great.
Yeah.
He's got a beard. Dean got off the best of all of these characters.
He did.
I think.
Yeah,
he did.
I think one of the best jokes in this is we learn about the 30-somethings club, which again is something that we can all relate to. A group of 30-somethings who have moved back home to live with their parents after not cutting it in the real world.
Hey man, whomst among us, right?
Right. We get Summer now. Rory realizes that she is back. She is in Stars Hollow now, and she takes up the mantle of editor-in-chief of the town paper, which is really just a place for ads and a yearly poem.
The weekly quote.
Yeah, there's a weekly quote that somebody pulls from a GeoCity site.
Yeah, it's owned by Sinclair Media.
Yeah. Also, the second half of this episode is just Stars Hollow the musical starring Sutton Foster. I have nothing to say about this. It's very weird, but it's a musical.
It's a very weird. Very funny bit. They just write.
It is fun.
It's 45 minutes of what if we wrote the worst musical in the world.
Yep.
And
that's it.
It's very fun.
And the big kind of point here, the big dramatic point is Rory gets the idea that she's going to write a book, and she's going to write a book about her life, and it's going to be called, everybody say it with me, The Gilmore Girls.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding you. Lorelai does a social network thing and says, drop the.
Yeah. Yep.
Stupid.
The last episode of Day in the Life is fall, and this features Lorelai, quote, doing a Wild, which again, if you remember Wild starring Reese Witherspoon, which was the very real life events of a woman who what trail did she do? Was it the PCT?
Yeah.
Yeah,
the Pacific Coast Trail.
Yeah, the Pacific Coast Trail. Lorelai gets about 10 feet in and has an epiphany and realizes that she should have just married Luke all along. And it's very nice. She reconciles with her mother. Everything is good. And then Lorelai and Luke have their very, very much anticipated wedding. And Day in the Life ends the way that Amy Sherman Palladino always intended Gilmore Girls to end, with Rory telling Lorelai, "Mom, I'm pregnant." And thus...
the cycle is complete.
The cycle begins anew.
A new blood sacrifice given to the goddess.
Blood for the blood god. And here we are.
Did this final season just hate itself? Is that what this was? It's like, it feels like it's fan tribute, but also being like, no, this is what these characters deserve.
So the idea with the like year in the life is that it's the where she wanted all the plot points to end.
Right.
Had she finished the show, but she has to do it 15 time displaced 15 years later.
Mm-hmm.
So the season 7 of the show started to undo all of the look, Rory is also bad. Started to undo some of that.
Sure.
So this season had to go this year in the life season had to go extra on that to drive home no, it's part of Rory's character that she has to learn that she is also bad.
Fair.
So
flawed. I mean, not, because again, these are just people, right?
Yeah, flawed. Thank you, flawed.
And I don't know why it's a point of contention, but people seem to argue that who is Rory's baby dad? It's Logan. It's obviously Logan.
The other two options are not actual characters.
They're actual characters.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's Gilmore Girls. That's the entire fucking series, start to finish. We did it.
Well, I don't need to watch it, so that's nice.
Probably not.
Nope.
I mean, that is the point of flavor text, kind of.
No, I'm not going to. I won't. I have no interest in this. But this is well done, guys. I mean, way to break it down. I get the story. I see the beats. I definitely see the entertainment value. This is less for me than Neon Genesis Evangelion. This is less for me than Yeast
You
was.
watched Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Right, and
you
I'm
went
saying,
and watched it all.
And
And
he's
I'm
playing
saying-
Yeast right now.
I'm not playing Yeast. I'll
So
never
it's
play
so
Yeast.
weird.
No, but when we were in Milwaukee, I saw a guy with a shirt that said Lacrimosa of Dawn, and I was like, fuck, I know what that is.
Yeah.
But no, I'm saying it's objectively less for me than Ava, and so I won't go back and watch it, but I get it.
Now,
I
Matt,
get it.
I will tell
Okay,
you,
cool.
when you see a Babette ate oatmeal t-shirt out in the wild, you'll know what that's from too, because that's from Gilmore Girls.
I don't want to do this anymore. Are we done?
I appreciate what you two did, and you have given us a new.
It doesn't sound like it.
Well,
It doesn't sound
let
like
me
either of you
finish,
guys
let me
appreciated
finish.
what we did.
Let me finish. I respect what you've done here today. You've given us a new point in time that we are ultimately going to have to put in a tier list of flavor text, and I'm not really sure where this lands on the spread of the Witcher. Was that the best one we said?
I think
And-
we said The Witcher was the best and the Kingdom Hearts was the worst.
No, I thought we
Yeah.
said Magic was the best.
Oh, it might have been Magic.
I don't remember it.
Well, we're gonna have to do a tier list again.
We're gonna have to do a
This
tier
is-
list again.
Gilmore Girls will be part of that.
Thanks everybody for listening to Debate This. You can follow along with the arguments on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Debate This Cast, or on our website at debatethiscast.com. And if you want to commission your own flavor text, I don't know, maybe about another hit early 2000s The WB show like Smallville or Roswell or Dawson's Creek, head on over to patreon.com/debatethiscast. A one-time payment of $60 will net you the godlike status of commissioning a full episode. Until next time, I'm Andrew Henderson.
I'm Kyle, a film by Kirk Harper.
I'm Todd. Matt's a baby, eats a boy. Thomas.
And I'm Matt. The real fundraiser was the sweaters we knit along the way. Cole.
We're saying thanks for debating with us, and if you think we're wrong, you can come fight us behind the Swing Sets Nerds, specifically outside of a house in Stars Hollow, Connecticut.
You guys remember the We Add a Baby Eats a Boy commercial? Is that just for me? Okay.
I do.